unsurprisingly, I was typing to someone on Reddit and lost track of time. Hello. I think this guy's kind of stupid anyway, if I'm being totally honest. I don't know if he ever comes my chat, but Hellstaff seems like a guy who just kind of runs around all the subreddit with very superficial takes on why 8 workers will be good. Like, this guy is completely drunk in the Kool-Aid, I guess is the best way to put it. Where he's just, it doesn't matter how many times I'm like, well, this has been a problem. This kind of thing has been a problem in this many expansions, and this is a problem in this. Or how many people are like, hey, this is actually legitimately broken with the new patch, so we should probably look into this. It's just eyes closed and mantra set. 8 workers will increase strategic diversity, and it will be great. Okay. Okie dokie. All information in one place. Yeah. That's generally the purpose for it anyway. Yeah, I found it fascinating, you know, like, and there's been a few people who have commented along the lines of like, along the lines of, you know, oh, so we just need to make everything mechanically more difficult like Brood War. That would suck. Or why are we even looking at Brood War? It's a completely different game. And it's just like, if something is working well, understanding why it works well is never a bad thing. So I don't get why people comment to me about that stuff. Yeah, so we'll get into the changes in a second here. Once again, I have to wait for ads. A little annoying, my streaming program won't reset the ad snooze button unless I open up my stream on Twitch, and then it'll reset on the streaming software, which is, it doesn't make any sense in my opinion, right? Like, I don't know how does that work? I don't fucking know. Anyway, so we'll wait for these 2 minutes of ads to play before we start discussing the changes. And I'm not really looking to go in depth with this. This is going to be generally more of a kind of a overview of what they're probably trying to do. and whether or not I think they're going to be successful with what they're trying to do. And pretty, yeah, general take on it. Gameresses. Actually, speaking of gameresses, so I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do after we talked about the PTR. I figured enough people would be interested in hearing even some basic thoughts on it. So I was like, yeah, we can start the stream off with that. But I really didn't know what else to do. I was writing my, I'm basically going through my Brood War docu-series, I guess is what it could be called. And kind of just fixing things up. And it required, quite a bit of fixing. I've had to go back and really research a lot more stuff. Anyway, but I was like, I don't know if I really want to do that on stream. But it's one of those situations where you start researching and you start getting all these tabs open and you start kind of getting this like thought in your brain, like, okay, I need to write this down. And then you're forced to completely close it all. And you're like, oh, I got to restart. So I was like, that doesn't sound great either. But there are some interesting things that maybe we could talk about. And one of those interesting things that's actually not interesting, it's just really depressing, actually. But you said gameresses, and my God. So I was trying to look up. There was a woman commentating in a Brood War game from 2004, and I was like, I would love to know who that is. So I tried Googling it, and it's very difficult to find out. Most of the Google searches, whenever you type like woman StarCraft commentator, even if you try and specify on GameNet, OSL, Brood War, whatever, you get not me. You get Lil Susie, Seltzer, Kelly Milkies, and then like one or two others. Not me though. Anyway. But the one thing I did find was this very depressing thread about a new OSL commentator. This lady, I guess, became a commentator in 2008. And, oh my God, Team Liquid was just a hellhole. Like, holy shit. It's so funny, too, because, like, when I came into StarCraft 2 around 2010, Team Liquid was already known for, like, the banhammer. For like any little thing. It was like scary to post on Team Liquid. But apparently prior to 2010, people were just sexist, racist, R-word abusing assholes. Because this thread, it's only 2 pages long, but basically it gets worse as the thread goes on. Whatever, lol, okay, why bother posting? Then now it's a face for radio. She's fugly anyway. I always thought that girls in esports were the looks, not the skill in the girl. The picture is ugly. I don't think it's bad looking. Wait, look, never mind. That is bad looking. I think this is on purpose, which is why they didn't go back and edit. They made a new post. This is a good nose. These pictures are ugly. Whilst in every VOD she looks hot. It's just, oh my God. Apparently in 2 years, Team Liquid actually brought out the banhammer, but they were allowed to be terrible people. Right? Exactly, Spunny. That's also what I'm thinking. This is like, it's so condensed and just it looks like something someone would have made up when they're trying to describe the internet in 2008, and it is actually real. This has not been doctored in any way. Anyway, let's talk about the patch. And what do we want to listen to today? What kind of music? I'm gonna listen to workout rock, K-pop. We're talking a lot about StarCraft and history, so maybe some like second generation K-pop would make a lot of sense. I think my my YouTube playlist is more in timeline order. And see how far society has come. Yeah, it is. It's overall, as someone smart put it, the grand trend is toward good, I suppose. But then you're also like, oh, great. You still have a lot of people who are like, yeah, that is history. No one is sexist anymore. Women don't experience any downsides to being a woman. The fact that that's literally my father who brought me up, taught me all of his values, typing, this woman is fugly. Why is she a commentator? It doesn't mean anything. Doesn't matter. Oh, that's right. That's why I don't listen to the YouTube playlist anymore. Because you have to make you have to do something specific to get it to play all. That's why I don't do that anymore. Orange caramel. Probably puts they made a new model like a web layout for Team Liquid. Information sparse, lots of white space bullshit. Oh, yeah. That is weird. As a 6-foot-tall man, I can tell you women never have any problems in society. Never. Anyway. We might get more into that discussion because that's kind of where I'm at in my Brood War document. But let's talk about the StarCraft 2 PTR. As many of you have heard, probably not going to bother making this a YouTube video. But most of you heard about the one that came out about 3 weeks ago at this point. So this is a longer time period of waiting for them to update the PTR than it was 8 months ago, the last time they had a PTR, which in my opinion is a bad sign. I feel like some people take this as a good sign, and I'm not sure why, particularly because this time around, I think there was more patch breaking bugs, as in like you weren't really testing it because the bugs existed. So what was the point? You know, those things should have been fixed immediately. But anyway, they finally come out with basically fixing a lot of the bug fixes, as you can see here, making all of the numbers work, and Vipers can abduct siege tanks and whatever. But they updated balance, and this is, we'll go over each one, but like I said, like I'm not really going to be the one to be like, well, this is why this is going to affect this, and then this build is going to be worthless now. Like, I'm not in a position to do that, but I am in a position to say like what they're trying to do, right? And I think it's not. I'm not on the balance council. I'm not talking to the intern or whoever else might be talking to the intern. But I think we can all guesstimate what's happening here, which is that someone, maybe 2 people, perhaps 3, thought that changing the worker count would be a really, really, really good idea. And the reason they thought this is that overall they wanted there to be more strategic diversity. And they thought that the worker start is the reason that we've lost builds and cheeses, and that the games have gotten a little more homogenous. Whatever, right? That was the point, right? We're not talking about whether or not we agree with that, but that was kind of the idea, right? What they definitely did not consider was that Legacy of the Void was balanced around 12 workers. Now, 1 or 2 of the people who actually made this patch might be in my chat lurking, seeing if I shit talk them, because they've done that before. And they're like, no, I definitely considered that. We just didn't want to put anything. Yeah, okay, fuck off. No, like I'm pretty sure they just didn't consider it. So let's get that out of the way. When people started to point out that, hey, there are a couple of things that actually don't really make sense, considering that you want to revert us to this time period, but then you can't revert a lot of other things. You can't revert the Adept being a whole new unit. You can't revert the larva and the general macro mechanic change. They were like, oh, fuck. That's probably a good point. So they put their heads together after discovering, hey, there's other things that would need to change as well. And they came out with this patch. Fair enough. Good thing that they did, right? Because it would have been worse than not even trying to approach it, I suppose. The problem is, apparently, within the 16-ish hours since this was released yesterday night, apparently Zerg is just broken. As in good, as in it's really good. So larva spawn rate has been increased, so it takes about a second less. And then queen mineral cost decreased because that was increased, as you recall. I don't remember when, but a while ago. Notably, they did not increase the hatchery cost, which was the trade-off. They increased queens and reduced hatchery cost. They did not, I guess on purpose, change the hatchery cost. They still want the hatchery to be cheaper than it once was. Overlord speed increase, though, is another thing that people were like, this is kind of absurd. You can't just go back to original Wings of Liberty speed. And then the other stuff has to do with the warp gate changes and then the ghosts, which obviously the warp gate needed to be fixed and changed, and the ghost also needed to be fixed and changed. But this is in line with the last patch that they did 8 months ago. Not the timeline necessarily, but the idea is that I think 8 months ago when they came out with the storm patch, because that was the biggest change, they then within about a week released a fix to that patch, and it incorporated, I think, a lot of things that the community was talking about. Because, obviously, like, there is definitely a certain amount of, oh, yeah, we didn't consider that, this would be a better middle ground. That would be expected for anyone developing any type of patch. I'm not saying that every patch has to get absolutely perfect the first go around. That would be an insane expectation. But yeah, so they kind of went a little extreme in that storm patch, and people were like, hold on. And they were like, good points. And then within a week, they released the new and improved patch. And again, generally, I was a fan of that patch, and then also a big fan of the revision to the patch. I really did think that it looked like whoever was doing this was reading into the community and really picking up on some of the smart points. Then we have this, which I think is just different. I mean, because anything that the farther along something is in StarCraft, the less impact it has to everything StarCraft. If you touch Storm comes in, let's say, at the mid game. There's not really a lot of early game storms, right? Even then, even if you could say you do that on like one base because you were trying to do some weird type of one base, it's still a later technology. It doesn't impact the entirety of the game. It's rather segmented. Same if you changed like Ultralisk costs or carrier interceptor counts or Widowmine burrow time. Like, all of these things are pretty isolated. They're fairly isolated, so it's also easier to kind of be like, oh, this is how the Widowmine now works. Because I can test like more so on the Widowmine and see how that interacts. And it's also later on in the game. So you're not, it's not from minute 0 or second 0 that things are already funky, already screwed up. This is the first time that, since Legacy of the Void, that the foundational, I mean, you could say like queens and hatcheries are actually fairly foundational, but even that that was one of the funniest like little tiny touches that they could have done. The 25 minerals taken and given between queen and hatchery, and that does occur very early on. But again, it was a very small thing. I mean, this is a huge foundational change that didn't seem to really respect that fact as much as it should have. So now, like, it's just a scramble to try and catch up with everything that everyone's going to point out are changed due to the worker change dynamic as well as the warp gate dynamic, because warp gate's also very, very early on and also encompasses the entirety of the race, right? So this is apparently not working, first of all. Again, like, Zergs they're feasting right now. But then also, even if it looked like it temporarily worked, I feel like there's going to be dozens and dozens and dozens of new things that will pop up. And I have no faith whatsoever in Blizzard continuing to check in on StarCraft and fix these things. So yeah, I wasn't expecting anything else really from an updated PTR, but yeah, it just further cemented my feeling that one, they're going to push through both changes, the 8 worker start and the warp gate change, no matter what. And that two, yeah, the implications of these changes weren't really entirely thought out before being implemented. Because if they were, I feel like if there was actually proper research done into this, I feel like, because you could even have just gone back to Legacy of the Void and seen their development process of changing from 6 to 12 workers, and you could have seen the point in which they said, "Oh fuck, macro mechanics. We need to fix that." And you could have been like, that's something I also need to fix. But I've said this before. I really, really don't believe there was a lot of research done into this stuff. Although one of the people who has the ear of Blizzard rather arrogantly came into my economy discussion Reddit thread and was like, people know this, but you didn't give a solution. And it's like, really? People know this? First of all, that's not true, clearly. Tons of people have told me, like, I didn't realize this was this and this and this, and it's so cool you put everything together, and like now I have a better understanding of the economy. And then second of all, you're coming in as if like you had done all this research prior to suggesting the worker change, influencing the worker change. I don't know. I don't know. I really do feel like arrogance is not a bad word to use for this this patch phase, this round of patches. Like the storm change again was just, it was like interesting enough, but it also still felt like it was a light enough touch to be like, whoa, like we won't be back for 8 months, so let's really hone in on something and try and fix that. With also, it also, that 8 months ago, it also had like, 30 bug fixes. This one feels like they're like, well, we did kind of good with that one attempt. What if we just really took on the behemoth? And it's like, why would you think that that's possible? That's such a incredible self-confidence that you must have to be like, super limited resources, barely anyone paying attention, definitely not going to get enough people testing this on the PTR, because that's notoriously bad. It fails after 2-3 days. But I think we should do it. Just throwing the idea out and experimenting. I think everyone is like, you can't fault them for experimenting, but I think that's like half of the conversation, right? The rest of the conversation is, but it isn't just a test, is it? They're going to push this through. And when you tack that on, it's no longer just like, let them do whatever they want, it's just a test. No, it's not. Most likely it is not. I would be pleasantly surprised if they actually did end up, just being like, yeah, it was a test and we learned a lot from it, but we're going to hold off on this now. But it's an idea that we're still interested in looking into in the future, which would be one of the best, most PR, manageable ways to approach the shitstorm that this has kind of stirred up in the community. In my opinion, would be a far easier win than trying to push this through and appeal to the people who swear they're going to come back and play because it's 8 workers. I think it's a good time to say various Warpgate Gateway train time. Yeah, that's also really weird. I saw people have already gone in and actually like documented what the actual changes are, but it's such a lazy thing to do. Like, why? They have the stats. Why would they not just put that in? Because some content creators have been screaming, I want big changes. It's true, but I feel like in no universe, very, very few content creators were selling a big change on a foundational aspect, again, like Warpgate or worker count. I think whenever we would talk about big changes, I feel like most of us were envisioning like a new unit or like the way that carriers work. Something like that. Because if application won't stop working with those changes, then app changes are good for balance. Yeah, there's enough people saying that they love the worker change that they could easily just say like, oh, it was, favored that way, or it was split, so we decided to go with what we think is going to change up the game. I feel like Pig's having an early birthday. Really? I kind of feel like the opposite. I feel like Pig has actually been given an undue burden that's timing out very poorly with his Age of Empires escapades. Because I feel like I haven't seen all of Pig's streams, but I already feel like there was a certain amount of heavy is the crown, even though it wasn't even the crown that he was actually, supposed to be given. That was affecting him. So he made that improved 8 worker start with all the balance changes and whatnot video, and then he was like, mostly tapped out. Pig's always level-headed enough that he'll never crash out one way or another, but I'm pretty sure he just now responds to most conversation about the worker changes like, well, I still think that it's going to be good for some people, and some other people won't be happy about the changes, but overall, I just hope that this really helps StarCraft. Pig's angry? What's he angry about specifically? Well, that's the beauty of people who think before they speak in a position of authority, I guess, but just more so like media. Oh, they're not responsive enough? Oh, well, then that's great. Yeah. I mean, I kind of wish that he would also give up on the 8 workers, but yeah, my issue is that oftentimes I'll just be like, fuck it, I'm going to say what's on my mind, and then I say it, and it's not the most politically correct or PR correct, there we go, PR correct way of talking about it. I don't think through how everyone's gonna respond to everything that I say before I say it and give like milquetoast answers, so that when people are like, yeah, ZombieGrub was fucking wrong, and be like, well, no reason to be so, extreme. I wasn't extreme. I was just like, oh, I hope this goes well. You want to make big changes, should have gone further. There's also that mentality where it's just like, if you are going to touch things that could potentially break the game, I mean, really just break it. So that it really does take a very long time to figure out, who's gaining the most from these patches and who will show us the way. Delete medevac, put in medic and regular drop ship. Yeah, I think there's still a bunch of things they could do. I mean, like, I feel like deleting the Tempests, giving Broodlords a Guardian attack, getting rid of Swarm Hosts, introducing a whole new unit, which, yeah, is impossible. Um, make Hydras tier 1. Make Lurkers the Impaler from co-op that doesn't have like a AoE but just is like a really big single attack. Yeah, patches mod. Just do one of the mods that is actually trying to break so many things. So that every time you load into a game, it's like, this is new. This is like, I haven't tried these new Zerglings against these other the different Marines that are here. Because this is like patches or greener or whoever's making really extreme mods, even like StarCraft Brood War versus StarCraft 2, right? That mod. What's fun about it is that you really, at every angle, you're getting something new. And I've talked about the 8 worker start just being one of the actually the lamest things I've ever heard. I think people hear it and they extrapolate from it a lot of things that are not, they're definitely not guaranteed. And that's what they think is cool, right? Some people know enough about StarCraft that they think, oh, that means it'll be like Wings of Liberty. And I loved Wings of Liberty because that's the last time I played to a serious degree. Oh, it means that suddenly there's going to be like 100 more cheeses and build variety when I watch professional games, because there's already enough of that in the ladder. So anyone who was like, well, I can't 12 pool, I'm like, fuck off, you can 12 pool. That also is definitely not a guarantee. But at the end of the day, the actual excitement around a worker change is not that exciting. Yeah, another big way they could change the game is actually say that they're reverting all nerfs of the last 5 years patches. Imagine if they did that and they listed every single nerf. Like, I have no idea how that would look. But that would be, I think, a lot more fun. There's removal of spells and units. What unit was removed? Five years ago, Infested Terran was a unit? I really don't remember when they finally got rid of it. No, Infested Terran wasn't a thing then. Yeah, I think yeah. 5 years ago was 2021. Just in case anyone has done the whole time slippage. You're like, 5 years ago was the 2000s. Yeah, that's what I thought. I was like, I know the Infested Terran was still in Legacy of the Void for a while, but yeah, drastically reduced effectiveness. But I don't remember when it was removed. But I definitely assumed it was before 2018, actually. It's like a campaign co-op unit, this Infested Terran. Well, first it was an actual competitive unit, and it was way too good. But yeah, it just did these, I don't know. I'm not gonna go full Wardy, who I think also probably just went the whole speak with your heart rather than try and think everything through that you ever say in your lifetime. Where he said what was on his heart, which is like, I really don't want to do StarCraft if this goes through. And then everyone just tore him to pieces for it, right? I don't want to make that mistake. But, I mean, I have a generally negative view of all the patches, even though I'm kind of like, I don't think it'll break everything, but there is a real possibility that it really breaks something because it is such a foundational aspect of StarCraft. It has the biggest chance of truly breaking something than I think any patch has ever had. But there's that. I still feel like I've been developing a resistance to getting back into StarCraft 2 if it does go through. Like, it wasn't my gut reaction when this released. 2019 is when the Infested Terran was removed. I was trying to remember all of Cyril's games in BlizzCon, and I was like, I don't remember seeing an Infested Terran. What did they break this time? So they've updated it, and apparently Zerg is really broken now. They've increased the spawn rate of larvae. It made queens a little less expensive, so you can... Like, that, maybe intentionally, maybe not, also made it so that you can probably afford that extra drone every new larva you get for the increased spawn rate. And apparently it's making Zergs just ball out of control really quickly. I think someone did the math. Oh my god. Alright, whatever. I'll read Avex's. Avex is cool. Oh, no. Someone did the math on like how much the larva, how the changes have already affected the amount of drones they can get. Oh, God, it might have been in here, though. It might have been in this gigantic pile of shit. No, it's Warpgate. I could have sworn I saw someone actually put into numbers like how many more drones they had at minute 2 and minute 3. Yes, please tell me. Changing bombs a feature. Should have been. Was the idea to not force Zerg into fast 3 bases? Well, the idea is the strategic variety. And then yeah, make it so that you don't get to that peak economy. That they've never used that phrase, but that peak economy incredibly fast, so that makes the game more monotonous. And they failed. Yeah, they went a longer mid game and just they made Zerg enter mid game at minute 5. Yeah, yeah. Maths for nerds. Yeah, so I saw that other Reddit thread where it said that you can max out at 7.5 minutes. Which I there it is. There it is. Yeah, 7.5 minutes. Which, I mean, even before this patch, well, not that he maxed out, but Cyril showed in the series versus Beyond that it hasn't really truly stopped any of this rapid acceleration that the game's just gotten so perfected. I mean, 10 years ago, the way that Zergs can defend that quick hive build would have been unthinkable, but not because, well, I mean, maybe a little bit because of like nerfs and buffs. There's a lot of those that have happened in 10 years, but not mainly because of a worker change, right? Because that happened 12 years ago. There's no way to get pushed through to live. My expectation is that this is going to be the patch pushed to live. based off of the last time they did a patch, which was patch surprise, wait a week. In this case, it was 3 weeks, but still, they wait. They update it with feedback gotten from the community, and then they push it live without any extra notice. Yeah, I agree. Which is kind of, this is again why I made that video, which is that I feel like this is definitely somewhat of a case of, I mean, I think there's a case of like good marketing going on right now. Like I had said to some comments on my YouTube video, that actually they like, the comment was like, I feel like this has gotten good PR or something like that. And I was like, exactly. Like, I feel like I'm a consumer reporter who has to come in and like break down every commercial that promises that like this tape will stop like a dam from breaking. And I have to actually be like, well, here's how they faked that. And here's what the tape will actually do. Just so people who are just, I feel like so many people, they just read the idea, or maybe they've heard this idea before by some other content creators, and they're like, well, that's the fix. 1-to-1, easy peasy. And it's like, it's not fucking easy. And then 2, I think this is also, it's, a bit of a case of this whole game designer idea of like, people might not know what the specific issue is or how to fix it, but they generally know that they know they're frustrated, right? They feel like there is something wrong, and your job is to figure out what exactly why they are feeling that way, because they probably won't be able to articulate it. So, if there is a general feedback of like, hey, I feel like these games are getting more boring and more monotonous, you look as to why that is. And I feel like this just didn't do a very thorough job of looking. Because not only do I not believe in the worker change, but I also feel like it has completely neglected anything outside of the actual game balance itself to why people would feel that way. And I feel like outside of game balance, there's a ton of very legitimate reasons why people would feel this way. Not moist. Moist. Most developers do not care what players want. Well, there's also that aspect, I suppose. See, and that could be fine. That can be fine, right? If someone who made the game or heavily influenced or works on the game and has worked on the game for a long time has a vision, and complaint A doesn't line up with vision A, then they're gonna ignore it, and that's life. But at least it's because they had this vision, right? But what you have now are not the people who were making StarCraft. They didn't even make Legacy of the Void, and that would be considered a low bar. Considering how much people love to point out that Stormgate was actually made by mostly Legacy of the Void people. If I was playing pretending nobody can ever harass me, I can get a 7-minute max out. Early game boost is relatively mighty. I don't have the money to fully abuse the extra larva. Well, I wonder how much you could help continue to mitigate this larva thing if you did increase the hatchery. Well, nah, you only get so many hatcheries, actually. Never mind. When we get over 30 drones eco, it's insane. Hey, everything about this last month. You got monkey pod. I think the current economy is fine, and they know 8 workers won't work, but they're doing it just so people will stop complaining. You mean like people are complaining about like monotony and lack of strategic diversity, and they're doing this and letting it go live, so those same people would be like, huh, maybe I was wrong. This still feels very similar. It would just be such a... it would be so stupid. Yeah, the loudest people who were saying shit like that just are like, that shut me up for good. I'm not gonna play StarCraft anymore. Bye. It's like, oh, got him. Yeah, yeah. As I was saying, like, kind of around this ad break, I didn't start off just being like, well, this is fucking stupid. This fucking sucks. Outside of my little comedic, exaggeration I did. But the actual conversation, I wasn't like, this fucking stupid and it's the worst thing that's ever going to happen and I'm never going to play StarCraft again. Which obviously I still would never be that serious about it. But it just, the more that I've seen this and the more that like, it's basically breaking my faith in anything happening with Blizzard. Like 8 months ago, that Storm patch actually like increased my faith, even though they never actually rose to the expectations that the hopes that we had, right? They dropped this surprise patch out of nowhere. Apparently it's Blizzard designed. It's actually touching on something kind of, extreme in the context that we knew it as anyways 8 months ago. And then it fixed very quickly with community feedback. It was like, oh my God, what if they keep doing this? And then they bounced for 8 months, right? So that we didn't get that much. But I feel like even then it was like, okay, no, I think this, whoever's in charge is gonna have like a bit of a light touch and, actually look at what people are saying and, respects kind of the place that we're at in StarCraft right now. And these last 3 weeks have kind of just completely gotten rid of that. Where I'm just like, I feel like this is definitely more of a case of someone who's just bullheaded, rushing through things, believing that they're right. That they didn't actually do a lot of research on what they must not have seen as being that big of a deal. But yeah, a big enough deal that it would change the whole game. Like, wait a minute, that doesn't make any sense. Yeah, and then, just... We'll never know exactly what the relationship is between anyone at Blizzard and anyone outside of Blizzard, to keep things vague. But certainly it isn't a great feeling to also learn maybe more behind the scenes stuff where it's like the potential of the person in charge of the knobs going, you're my guy. I'm going to listen to a lot of what you say. And it's one guy. Doesn't fill me with hope. No matter who the guy was, as well. I feel like my expectation is this is gonna be the live version in like a week or two, and I will absolutely have less desire to go and play, which I haven't played that much recently anyway. But as things ebb and flow, I was getting back into StarCraft. Watching it and playing some team games and co-op and stuff. And now I'm just like, when I go back, into a team game, I'm going to have to figure things out again. And honestly, I really don't want to. And I know there's a lot of holier than thou people being like, how could you not want to? It's a strategy game. So like, why aren't you excited about learning how to do a 3CC on 8 burgers again? Like, that's just a you problem. But I am not alone. That is 100% true. I am not alone. It's like I edited this out, I think, of my video, but there's like a part of my video where I was like, fucking news alert, casuals will not, like, they won't persevere through the hard times. They will say, oh, this game's a little different, I'm going to bounce. And I feel like we're not in a position like other games that have extreme changes where they can kind of fluctuate between the people who love that and the people who hate that. Like, I feel like we're a very different situation where you are going to get a lot of people who are like, time to play StarCraft after 5 months because I'm kind of I got the feeling again, and they're going to go in and they'll be like, oh, what is this? Never mind. And then they're gonna, because they're casuals, like, this is actually what would happen, and you don't blame them for doing that. I think I said fucking news alert, casuals, aren't gonna care very much. Let's go to the casuals. It's happened in Wargroove 1. Really, some minor buffs to a loved commander. Made him the best commander where he was banned. Yeah, that's a backfiring. I can promise you nobody touched a keyboard and mouse for their initial concept of the new Storm. I love it. Pretended PTR mattered, ignored all feedback, shipped the patch, and everyone was present in PTR. Oh yeah. The Storm patch is not a super glowing review, actually. But for what it ended up doing, I thought it was fine. I could say that I liked it. And not feel like I'm stupid for that. Like it was fine. They came in, they did like a little something, and then they were like, okay, bye. But I was like, we'll see. Like, you know, this game isn't drastically different. The guy, yeah, for sure. It's not fun because like a chore has to be done. Yeah, if there's one thing that StarCraft has, it's that it is a very comforting game for people at this point. Right? Like, is that a great way to put it? I think it is. It's a comfortable game. Obviously, it's gonna matter more to me and be more comforting for me and more nostalgic for me than most other people, and everyone in chat as well, right? They're already 20 times more invested than any casual would actually be. But still, I think even for a true casual, there is a certain amount of comfort that goes into it, where they played 10 years ago and they're going to give it another go. Or they play every 5 months or whatever because they kind of get that itch, like I do with like Age of Mythology. Like I'd say I can say I love Age of Mythology without, you know, then having to do like a whole test. It's like, do you play it every day? Are you competitive? Are you good at it? Like, what do you mean you love it? You can't say you love it. And I'm like, no, I think it's very, very fun to play. I play it like a regular fucking video game rather than some super competitive esports scene, and I think that's okay. Hosting competitive play and alternative economy mods. I mean, yeah, I think that I would. The problem is I have no money. And generally getting, and this is, I think, one of the aspects of the non-game design side of things that they just completely ignored as to why people would think that it is more monotonous. You really need like a decent prize pool to get people in, or a decent amount of pull, I guess, like, because they'll be on like a super big stream. I don't know. But, you know, Cyril doesn't sign up for anything below 10K, right? When you're too poor to try the types of economy. Aww. Figuring out fun stuff is enjoyable. Right. This is, I think, another reason why, you know, we say big changes sometimes would be fun. It's because there's a certain amount of stuff that we're going to be familiar with, and then the other stuff that we're unfamiliar with happens when we're at the fun part, I guess. You know, people are kind of making fun of this whole Blizzard philosophy of we get to the fun part faster. But, you know, in some cases, I think they're actually correct. Like, and so if I could just do my build that I've known for 10 years, but instead of knowing there's going to be a Baneling Ravager attack on the way that's going to try and interrupt me, I instead now have to deal with a Baneling Aberration Ravager attack. That would be so much more exciting to me than being like, well, now I gotta perfect my first 2 minutes. I don't think the Aberration would actually do anything in StarCraft, by the way, but whatever. Something happened in Movie Battle? Movie Battles 2? I've never heard of that. Class is stronger than that started. Something like Hearthstone Shopify Sundays run an economy mod. Yeah. You could. And again, a lot of the economy suggestions don't include having to relearn something that is very mechanical. Like what they're forcing us to relearn is actually very mechanical, which is kind of funny because the same people who are in favor of forcing this are the ones who are like, strategy. You should be so happy that now you can learn new things and do different things. And it's like, bitch, I am not that good. I could have always done whatever the fuck I wanted. War Owl, I have not. Losing 100 times to learn to scout, and yeah. It just doesn't... I just don't see what the point is. I just really don't. There's so many chances for it to go wrong. Let's be generous and say there's like an equal amount of people who are going to leave to those who might actually come back. It's just sad. I've been, I was saying that, if you're going to ask me what my opinion on the PTR was, and I was like, my opinion is that I'm trying not to care as much. Because it just, and someone was like, you're in the acceptance phase. I was like, I guess I am. I'm in the acceptance phase, and I accept being sad. You want to learn how to use a new sniper rifle? Yeah, that's a pretty good analogy. You want to learn how to use a new sniper rifle. You don't want to have to relearn how to trust your crosshair because they force you to have a different crosshair or something. Or yeah, not relearn every single gun in the video game. I wonder if it's friends to a modded CS environment with only one weapon is really overpowered. What's the after effects of the PTR patch that's causing this response? It's an interesting way to phrase it. I think I get what you're getting at. This particular patch is apparently causing really big issues with Zerg. So in the previous version, they changed the workers without really... they didn't consider, at least with that patch, macro mechanics had changed. So when people were like, hey, macro mechanics have changed, that's always going to fuck up this math you're trying to do. They were like, you're right. But we're not going to give like a whole nother larva every time the inject happens. Like we can't revert it entirely because we're also not reverting the workers entirely, right? So instead, they're trying to find these like a middle ground on that in particular is this, while also fixing some of the other stuff that was proven to be problematic. And while this might help that particular time period for Zerg, like the early game, in which they felt they were affected more than the other races, they have in turn accelerated the mid game. Because you can't just, there's no cutoff in StarCraft where like it stops being 9 seconds, it goes back to 10.7 seconds. And there never will be because that's a really odd mechanic and they don't really want to, well, I say they as if they still exist. Blizzard had certain design philosophies that they would stick with so that when people would suggest really, really out-of-pocket shit, you could kind of answer with like, yeah, that is insane and it could be fun, but then it's not really... it's not a mechanic that exists in the game. So the mechanic that does not exist in StarCraft 2 is something, the timer changing on unit production or spell casting or energy regeneration or anything like that. Give him 3.5 larvae. That actually sounds really funny. I love this idea that like half a larva spawns and it doesn't move because it's dead. So it's only half a larva. And then the next larva inject happens and the other half like wiggles toward each other, and then they connect, and then they start wiggling. Or yeah, you can only make literally one Zergling with it. That does actually sound pretty fun. You imagine Zerg can spawn half units, like in general. That'd be so funny. Yeah, half Ultra. It's like it's half the size, half the armor, half the damage, half the speed, half the turn radius, half the damage point. This actually sounds kind of funny in a really dumb way. So, you know, on this whole like Zerg is maxing out really quickly thing, which is the opposite of what they wanted to do. It's like literally the opposite. One of the guys who I already made fun of once, so I shouldn't do that again. But, you know, he was, one of the things he was responding to me with, in the current iteration, Rock, Paper, Scissors is dead. Optimal builds are figured out and you can't do anything about it. There's not much to be done about Zerg getting to 90 drones and max Banes if they want, except all-ins. Which I just realized is also a contradicting statement. If all-ins do work, then isn't that a rock versus paper situation? Anyway, there's not much to be done with someone wanting to go Sky Toss. This makes it so everything is kind of up. Sky writes terribly. Is amplified and ever present. Meta becomes very stale every game. Anyways, yeah, apparently this patch doesn't fix that either. So I imagine that's what he means. Like if you CC first and you get proxy T-Rexed, which still exists. Also, yeah, this is I agree, Spunny. This is such a it's like if I really wanted to spend a lot of time not getting paid to do something. Like I feel like I could go back to all the discussions that were had when Legacy of the Void was talked about compared to this one, because I feel like we just reversed everything. One of the absolute complaints of Heart of the Swarm was that there was there were some hard counters and lack of comebacks, and that was actually a bad thing. And then Legacy of the Void made it so that there is a little more flexibility with this, which actually, so this guy posted, someone who I actually think is quite smart, Terrancraft. They haven't done StarCraft in a long time though. I think this, I was going to go through like every single point, but I was like, ugh, why do I care so much? Why do I keep caring so much? Anyway, like one of the things that they discuss is that, the proxy 2-Rax is no longer as all-in as it was. Maru can macro from a proxy 2-Rax. And so the equivalent to a 2-Rax in Heart of the Swarm would be more like a 4-Rax in Legacy of the Void. This is correct. Such arguments shift away from the difference in opportunity cost for build choices. There's no build on HOTS, to the best of my knowledge, that allows players to get units, tech, and economy simultaneously. There might not have been a specific build for it, but there was absolutely a problem of people still being allowed to do it on, like, literally just 3 bases. Which is why Heart of the Swarm did not end with rainbows and ponies. It ended with terrible metas. But anyway, some people could easily argue that this is actually a very good thing. That Maru could have some early game aggression while still being able to macro out. But it just, like I said, it feels like we're regressing. It's like all the things that Legacy of the Void seeked to destroy in Heart of the Swarm, people are now envious. It can be a little confusing. The grass is, yeah, it's always greener for them, I guess. It's also amnesia, yeah. I mean, there's a lot of holes I could poke in this particular post, even though this guy was doing some pretty in-depth stuff for Heart of the Swarm. There's also a lot of things that I can't dispute, because I don't remember the specifics of builds. So some of the things I have to take his word for. The only thing I feel like I am equipped to do is tell you what the trends were as someone who's been doing this since the beginning. Like I told Hellstaff in these responses. But the one thing I wanted to point out as well was that he says, not talking about build orders. By the way, he actually did describe what a rock, paper, scissors is. Not talking about build order wins necessarily, but meta and counter meta. I believe we even talked about it. Something's overpowered, kill before that. Killing before that is overpowered, play safe, or kill even earlier. Balance self-corrects due to fluid meta. So there you go. That's what he was talking about, apparently. But then, yeah, I just pointed out that the design idea of killing something before it gets overpowered can make balance look good. As in, you look at the win rates and it's 50-ish%. But that's exactly what Immortal Sentry All-In versus Brutal Infestor was. And it was not good. That was not a fun time period. That was not good design. And his response was just that Wings of Liberty is very different, which, I mean, isn't wrong, but just, you know, the whole idea entirely is not a good one to strive for. I think you're right, Spunny. I mean, I think that's the kernel here, in my opinion. That's really what it all boils down to. There's two things I think this patch overall boils down to. One, a lot of nostalgia. And the most obvious thing that has changed, which would be the workers, I guess. And then two, do you trust Blizzard to fix problems like they did when they first tried to change the economy? And there's just, and I asked this guy, and he didn't even really answer. It was a dumb answer, but it to me, you could never, you can't, you just can't. If you're like, I trust Blizzard, they'll fix it. I'll be like, why? Why would you believe that? Or in this case, this guy was like, I don't think it'll be that bad. Because again, he gave like a non-answer. I had to like infer what his answer was. Like, this could absolutely break a large portion of the game. But he disagrees. So, okay. He spoke with Dave Kim today, which sounds like a troll opener, but it's Hearthstone, so I think it's legitimate. About the 6-12 worker change, we tested quite a bit pre, yet there was a very limited amount of interesting branch offs. Oh, sure. Yeah, that makes solid. Like, yeah, I think he even talked about it. I want to say that that's a public, like, reasoning. You know, maybe not something that they put into a BattleNet report, but probably something that they discussed on one of the panels about StarCraft at BlizzCon. Now, and I'm fairly certain this is the case because I actually feel like some of the articles that I brought up actually directly responded to this idea. But I can't remember which one. And I'm definitely not going to go try and check. But yeah, that David Kim, you know, has been to hell and back being critiqued, certainly. If a certain person thinks that they've gotten a lot of vitriol for appearing to be a part of the balance team, I think David Kim has has some lessons to give on that. Anyway, but yeah, I'm pretty sure that there is a lot of responses to this idea. Or maybe it was just like, because they said it was a boring early game, and people were like, it wasn't boring. But yeah, that sounds legitimate to me. Because again, I think people are also really forgetting how much both previous expansions narrowed in scope as well. Like, it feels like I need to have a foghorn, you know, and need to like be right next to a lot of the people that I see commenting so that they really do hear when I say Heart of the Swarm Wings Liberty were not as good as you remember. See, this, it looks like such a coffee pasta, right? Yeah, I really, really believe there are so many people who just like I tried to describe at an earlier discussion about this, which is it's the how different I am to some people when we talk about Heart of the Swarm is just mind-boggling. That there are people who swear that they were playing during Heart of the Swarm and they were watching a lot of StarCraft 2 during Heart of the Swarm, and they definitely loved it way more than Legacy of the Void. And I'm like, it's like talking to a person from another planet. I'm just like, how? I don't understand. And the only thing I could come up with is that when they say they played a lot and they watched a lot, they meant that they played as in they did whatever they wanted, because you're allowed to do that in StarCraft. If you wanted to 12 pool in current Legacy of the Void, you guys can, and that's not the reason you lose. And then when they say that they watched a lot, they meant that they watched like the top 8 of the premier tournaments that happened, which at that time was fairly diverse as far as the cast that would appear in the top 8s in terms of like new pro gamers on the scene, pro gamers who stuck with very interesting styles. You know, narratives that were really hyped up by a full production team with a bunch of fancy shit, so that you didn't just kind of know that someone did something kind of cool somewhere in this one tournament that happened and you didn't even really catch it, but you kind of heard about it. No, like it was in your fucking face that Duck Duck cried when he won WCSEU. So you're like, oh, the emotions of Heart of the Swarm. Oh, so good. And it's like, okay, calm down. But I just remember Heart of the Swarm being an absolutely miserable time for the community. Actually, one of the most depressing time periods, and we knew that an expansion was on the way. I really am not exaggerating. And this isn't a thing that actually affected me negatively, very much at all. Base Trade TV absolutely benefited from how miserable Heart of the Swarm was as a whole. Because a lot of people decided that they didn't want to watch people try and be professional for 2 hours. And in a stupid case of the opposite, you know, working out, whatever, when we did have 2-hour games, people would watch. Because it became one of these like, oh, this game's going on for over an hour. Maybe it'll beat Mana versus Firecake. Okay, everyone get in here and wait for the end and be miserable together. It might be so funny to look at. This is why, like, this could go in the subreddit drama. Subreddit, and it, you know, that would bring in a lot of people. But the amount of the amount of nerding out that people think that we're doing right now has got to be crazy. We got to be like the perfect example of fucking nerds. Someone thought the Warhound was a good idea. Yeah, notoriously not a great idea. But they got rid of it. But it wasn't. No, it wasn't the right people. Also, it was. It was a lot of times. A lot of times, it was the last time. Right? Like people would be like, "Haha, this is funny," and then it would be like the third or fourth time that they were like, "Haha, this is funny," and they would just be like, "You know what? This isn't funny anymore. I don't like it," and they'd leave. And then the next person would come in and be like, "Yeah, this is like my fourth time watching it, and I don't really want to do that anymore." So obviously, this was not a sustainable model. Just because we did get some peak viewership when we had stupidly long games did not mean it was a sustainable model at all. How about I don't know exactly what happened to Fire Kick. Making it to a single day of release. Did it? I didn't actually remember if it made it to release or not. Did we have Cyclone instead? No, Cyclone. I mean, you could, I guess you could, but it, like very different time periods. 9/14/2012. Yeah, the Warhound didn't make it to live. I didn't think it did. You beat a Korean pro with them. I don't know if we had an example. Yeah, I'm not sure we beat any pros with anything really overpowered. We might have. Not that I remember. But I do remember with Legacy of the Void, we beat a couple of, like, you know, like, not great pros, I guess, in Archon mode. And then we also, we beat MMA and MC in co-op. They let us test co-op, right, before Legacy of the Void was released. And we were like, this is a fucking great idea. It's amazing. And then me and Rifkin and I actually beat the hardest mode they had at the time. And they were really surprised. They thought it was really difficult. And then the professionals who were there couldn't defeat it. We got a pretty big ego after that. Fun fact, we influenced how much more difficult they made co-op. It's too good. What's up? The amount of people who are cross-posting from StarCraft 2 subreddit, by the way, has just gone up so much with this patch. What is up with that? Oh, yeah. Well, if you're talking about appealing to casuals, there is one thing that would appeal to casuals above all other things. Even if you did something really extreme, like just make Green Earth's mod live, and that I think would be a lot more fun, like you'd still be basically marketing to the people who already play, right? The best way to actually bring in people would absolutely be new co-op development. 100%. Yeah. I think it's the best co-op mode that any RTS has. Not that I've played like a ton of other ones, but... Yeah, I don't think they want to do new campaign stuff, though, just because well, it doesn't really matter. At the end of the day, whenever you look at StarCraft 2's books, it's not as impressive as World of Warcraft or Call of Duty or whatever, right? But, particularly when it comes to, like, the Nova Ops did, I think, worse than, like, individual co-op commanders. Particularly for the effort put in, money received aspect. So that's why I'm like, they probably won't touch campaign again. But co-op is like the easiest thing to, like, you don't have to put in a lot of effort to make a new co-op commander. Not as much. Obviously, there's still a lot of effort, but not as much effort. in fact, currently there are already like different skins and ideas that are probably like in some like dusty corner of Blizzard that you could just go and take. And then you'd really not like, there'd be could be like probably like one or two more commanders that are basically already fleshed out, with skins that already exist in the game too. But then beyond that, it's the easiest mode to appeal to casuals because Archon failed at that, and the campaign is more limited on time as to how long it'll attract someone. And I think it's the easiest thing to implement into any kind of like cross marketing. Where I'd said this for the Xbox Game Pass, and they didn't take my advice. But like the easiest thing I think they could have done for the Xbox Game Pass is like, here's a co-op commander just for Game Pass users. Like so many people who have bought like, 3 different versions of StarCraft 2, maybe even more because they played in Wings of Liberty, so they had to buy like every region, right? Would buy yet another version of StarCraft 2 in that $10 Game Pass subscription. Yeah, Sasha, you can come back to StarCraft now. Zerg's apparently really good. You can win all the tournaments. I mean, you got to beat other Zerg players though, so Stormgate had co-op. It wasn't great, and it was only going to get worse because apparently the engine couldn't handle a lot of the shit that they wanted to do. Also, yeah, new mutations and new missions would also be pretty easy. Like, again, a lot of the stuff is still going to require at some point, like a, 3D modeler, sound designer, sure. So it's not super easy, but new mutations could also happen. Like, I mean, the last time I talked to people who were working at Blizzard, when Blizzard was working on StarCraft, right, it was 2019, and I can say this now because it's 7 years later, and you can't judge me when I was 27. I said, you can't judge me, but I was super high. I took a gummy that I thought was 5 milligrams, and it was 10 milligrams. So, but I remember the gist, which was Ryan Shooter just completely like nerding out about co-op to me at like, I think it was like Mike Moham's party. But he had so many ideas. He like was really excited. He had so many more ideas for new co-op commanders and new mutations and missions. And certainly from like talking to him then, it would not have been obvious that StarCraft was going to stop being developed a year later, basically. We knew that the esports side was done by that point. They'd given us a little summit where they were like, no. But the co-op still seemed, I feel like, very likely it was going to continue. Yeah, this was the story, which Pig can't blame me for telling the story either. No, Pig was like, do you want these that I bought? Because we're in California and it's legal, and it's not legal in Australia. And I was like, sure. And then I didn't read the package. So that was tough. That was a tough night. And I'm not actually a person who actually, I would say, does extremely well with marijuana. There's like a certain amount in a certain scenario where it does what people say that it does for a lot of people, right? Where like chills you out and just makes you kind of happy. For me, it very easily like triggers like anxiety attacks if I have too much or if I'm in a social situation. That was cool. Stormgate Engine couldn't handle co-op. It couldn't. Yes, I mean basically, I would guess yes is the answer. I think it's a little more complicated, but people were already complaining like in mass. Well, as mass as Stormgate God, am I right, guys? About the lag, the effect on their computers when they were playing Stormgate co-op, especially compared to StarCraft 2 co-op. And then they had to, like, I think basically, like, they had a certain amount of restrictions about like how big the map was and how many like neutrals would appear and how many waves would appear, like that the harder the game got and stuff like that. You're much younger, you start using that excuse to do something stupid. In the grand scheme of things, it wasn't that stupid. I've done much stupider things. It wasn't like it was an official thing. I was supposed to only take as much as it would just be like I would just be chill. Okay? And I didn't end up doing anything stupid, so it just meant that it was kind of difficult to pay attention when people were talking to me. Oh my god, I totally forgot about that, Sasha. Oh, that's right. Yeah, that was before I had tried the devil's lettuce at all. Some other people tried the marijuanas at other summits. And when I was, 25 or whatever, I was like, no, sir. I do not want the weeds. Oh, yeah. Wait, were we watching Mad Max? Is that really how it went down? I guess it was. I don't remember. And I wasn't even high. Maybe I was drunk. Even without rollback? That I don't know. Maybe next time you can do something stupid. I love Mad Max Fury Road. It's one of my favorite movies. And you guys fucking couldn't pay attention. Okay, now I'm it kind of came back to me, honestly. As soon as I remembered being aggravated. Everyone was stoned or drunk, so no one could actually really pay attention to the movie. God. I must have blocked that one out of my brain. I played Battlestar Galactica with a small group of people in Texas, and that was perfectly fun. Trying to get people to play a new board game when the amount of people goes over like 5. It's just a recipe for disaster. Something you learn with age. Furry Road is okay. Furry Road? Well, I imagine that would have been okay. Fury Road, though, is pretty cool. I didn't actually like Furiosa that much. I was disappointed. The game? Yes, it's a game of lies. I quite enjoy games that involve lying. You think I would have gotten into poker at a much younger age. But Mafia was a huge thing in StarCraft back when a lot of people actually went to events. So you'd have huge Mafia games. And Battlestar Galactica is basically a Mafia game, but if you find out to be Mafia, you don't immediately die. And weirdly enough, I never liked Among Us. I never tried playing it. Anyway, like I said, wasn't the worst thing I've ever done. I mean, in terms of getting drunk when I shouldn't have, there's probably other inebriated when I shouldn't have. There's probably other examples. I don't think I've ever vomited from... I've never vomited from getting high. I've definitely vomited from getting drunk. And unfortunately, like much more often after that particularly bad night in Austin. I plan on getting very drunk tomorrow. Full disclosure, guys. Not on stream. I've managed since we don't go to, since there aren't any StarCraft 2 events where I can either be peer pressured or peer pressure other people into drinking too much. I've never peer pressured anyone within reason. So since I can't do that anymore, I actually did something that is just unheard of amongst the nerd people, and that is I went out and I started to participate in group activities. Sus, I have been responsible with my peer pressuring, thank you very much. With other people, I know. Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah. There's this thing called Volo Sports that exists around like cities in America, and Denver's a hip city. So I joined a dodgeball team, and then the second season, the people who signed up as free agents ended up really liking each other. Like everyone's chill and cool. And then we felt there was a team that was a bunch of dickbags, so we decided to change to kickball with cup in hand, and just kept growing the party basically of everyone who was cool. So now there's the Yellow Ravens chat group, and we actually do stuff. So tomorrow, this is like incredibly rare too. I mean, like, I'm basically bragging, right? Not only is it rare to like find some like a group of people that like you can do things reliably, even as little as like a kickball league every week, but then on top of that, to have like a text. Oh shit! Thank you, Bjorn, for that big old raid. I am not going to play StarCraft 2 like Bjorn, so just to get that right off the bat. We were talking about the PTR, and then we've kind of swapped over to talking about particularly about being immature. Yeah, I should change that. Thank you. But then on top of that, to actually get to like a text group and like do things outside of the kickball league. But then on top of that, almost everyone in the group wanted to do karaoke. That's really not that popular, especially if you like in America. And like a lot of the times when people say they do like karaoke, they like bar karaoke. They like going up to the one mic in front of the bar, right? And then singing, which I finally did with them, and it was fun. But like, you know, like other people in this group were like, no, we should do like karaoke like in Koreatown basically, where you can rent out a room. So that's what we're doing tomorrow. Yeah. It's very exciting. A little pregame beforehand at someone's house. I'll bring soju and teach them Korean drinking games. Why yellow? Because we didn't name our team, so I think what they do is if you're a team of free agents, they just put a color and an animal. But the team has rolled with it. I mean, we just have a lot of like outgoing, good vibes types of people, so in the best way possible. It was a bit stupid, but they even made it a I forget the word. You know when like the letters of a word, and then you take those letters and you put other words on them, and it's like the dumbest thing, but it's cute and silly. Where like Ravens now stands for like respectability, accountability, respectfulness, accountability. Right. What is V? I don't remember what V is. Oh, I have hold on. Anagram. Thank you. of course, it's victory. So one of the women, she got a sticker maker and she made stickers. So we got it on a sticker. Victory. E is for endurance / equal rights for women. N is for never give up, and S is for sensational. It wasn't the woman at all that came up with the equal rights for women, by the way. I don't know why they fucking included it. It's like the Legends of the Hidden Temple naming convention. Oh, yeah, you're right. You went to a karaoke where it was a big party with drag queens for like 400 people. Whoa. That sounds pretty cool, though, actually. Karaoke's the only thing that or singing's the only thing you're insecure about. I am not a good singer. Most of the people that I go to karaoke with are not good singers. But it doesn't matter. It's about the vibes. I don't know why that brought all the cats out. Hello. But yeah, if you're with a good group, like no one cares about your singing. You just sing your heart out. Well, yeah, I've done a little vocal training. I have gotten singing lessons. But we're doing karaoke. We're doing noraebangs in Korea long before I did that. So sadly, I don't remember what my first karaoke experience was. But I know we did it, decent amount of times in Korea because it's so easy. It's where you end up because it's open 24 hours and has food and a bathroom. And they pull the plug so we have to save it for later in the night. Fucking rude. I'd be upset about that. But yeah, team's gonna get super. We're gonna get turnt. Even like the person who usually she doesn't drink much at all because she's like the designated driver a lot of the time. Just come with an Uber. She's gonna get drunk. Hit the club after. Well, in America, everything shuts down at 2 a.m. So the karaoke bar is open till 2 a.m. I guess it's theoretically possible we would go to a club at midnight, I suppose. There's actually a kind of a fun event coming around the Denver in like a couple of weeks, I think, where one of the members of Girls' Generation, if you don't know Girls' Generation, then what are you doing in StarCraft? She's actually DJing basically millennial K-pop. Millennial K-pop EDM. Why do people always hang out in the club? Why are you in the club? Because believe it or not, dancing, even if you're also really bad at dancing, like I absolutely am, there's a certain amount of just having to accept that it is kind of a human experience. And the fact that we're all so clammed up, We're like, oh, I'm not a good dancer. I'm not a good singer. Oh, it's kind of embarrassing. Or, oh, I would never want to do that. I don't know. It just seems, you zoom out a little bit. It just seems like we're denying ourselves our little monkey instincts. Just doing a bunch of FPS reloading animations. I'm actually trying to think of what that would look like. Plus, the club is where things that are really funny happen sometimes. So, There's also that. Like, have I ever told you guys? I told some people. Not all of you would have heard this story. But, and this wasn't really a club, but I mean, it was kind of a club, I guess. When we were in Sweden and we needed to waste time because the broadcast didn't start until like 3 in the morning or something stupid, we went to a place called the Lemon Bar, which was kind of a clubby vibe. And it was really small, but there were people like up and dancing. And there was TJ, which was the bartender who had her PC open. But at some point, you know, Barbie Girl comes on. I might have suggested Barbie Girl, actually, now that I'm thinking of it. But the point is, Barbie Girl came on. And everyone was drunk enough that everyone was having a good time. But, like, it was me and then Wardy and then a couple others. And then Wardy... it was the guy like that happened to like we were talking to each other, I guess, or something. But we were kind of like into it. But then this guy behind me just taps me on the shoulder. I look around and it's like this like 50-year-old dude, right? So I'm kind of like, oh God, what is this? What is it going to be about? And the guy just kind of looks at me for a second and then he raises his hand and he goes, I'm a Barbie girl. And I just burst out laughing and I look at Wardy and Wardy's also like, that was not at all what I was expecting. And we just sang Barbie Girl with this like 50-year-old guy who was actually, that's all he wanted to do. And then he went to go do other stuff in the club. He wasn't weird at all. I don't think Wardy ever danced at the lemon bar. When was the last time I saw Wardy dance? I don't know. Wish they got you playing Age of Empires 2. I just don't like Age of Empires that much. I think it would be, you know, it's always a fun experience to like have a goal and a competition and, you know, if the stream enjoys watching it. But, you know, the more that I watch Age of Empires with all the stuff going on, the more that I was like, thank God StarCraft 2 isn't like Age of Empires. How are the Yellow Ravens doing in our kickball cup in hand? It's a good question. We lost yesterday. And the team was kind of annoying too, so that stung. We were flawless in Flip Cup until yesterday as well. Oh, I know what you're talking about now. Yeah. Oh, I totally forgot about that. Oh, that was funny. He probably doesn't want us talking about that, though. Ragnarok Cat, 83 months. Thank you very much. Nothing happened, just to be clear. But that was a fun night. The state mandated complaining. We kind of did that. Yeah. I don't think the patch is doing that well. You know who did apparently very well, though, is USA beat Australia 2-0. Soccer, the footballs. You're not leaving the house? Oh. Oh, are you do, I didn't know where it was happening. That's funny. Denver was apparently, Denver had pitched having one of the games in Denver, but it was, I forget what happened. Something we didn't have. But it's all right, because we might get the Women's Championship Soccer next year. Which is equivalent. I couldn't award it could handle LST in kilograms. Is Colin Donegal already? Ooh. Dude, I think I saw something about that. Yeah, Pride's. Yeah. Pride is same. I think Instagram has picked up that I like Korea, so it's been showing me a lot of reels about Pride in Korea right now. But funnily, like nothing about America Pride. Maybe because it hasn't started yet in America, but it has started. It's about to start in America. I don't know. You think I would know, living close to Denver, which I'm assuming has like a pretty big Pride, but I don't know. Taurus, I'm gonna be careful with edibles. As in, this is like Dare telling us this is a gateway drug, or as in they could possibly do too many edibles. Because from what I understand, the official legal weed in America is way better than what most Europeans can find. Yeah. It's because we have freedom. We have freedom to do, really hard drugs. Do we though? Do we though? Well, we walked down memory lane. We got Sasha to admit that she got super high at a summit. So, I'd say this is a job well done on the stream so far. She was even younger, though. So, you can't blame her for being 23 or something. I don't know. This was like... God, it was like a Heart of the Swarm summit? Jesus. Let's walk down more memory lane, but in a more official capacity. I was writing my Brood War history thing before streaming. So... I don't know how much chat could help me write. There's a couple of interesting things and like things that I actually can't actually find a lot of information about. If just by a major coincidence there's someone in chat who knows a lot about 2000 to 2004 Brood War, I need to find more information about the transition of the KPGA to KESPA. Because this wasn't really something that I didn't know. I didn't know about it, first of all. But this wasn't really something that I was able to find any more specific information about. There's KESPA's official timeline, which you can only find on the Korean version of their site. So you have to translate the Korean version. And then there's mentions of like KPGA and the KPGA tours in like Team Liquid articles. But they're very biased. So specifically, this part here. Oh, wait. By the way, this was cool. I found this out. So when SK Telecom came into StarCraft, there's actually a report of how much money they put into it. And at the time, in 2004, it would have been 1.7 million USD that they spent on obtaining a StarCraft team and providing van, lodging, marketing. They got an apartment in Gangnam, which is a very expensive part of Korea. So that was neat. That's way more money than I was expecting for 2004, 2003. But yeah, KPGA was apparently the Korean Professional Gamer Association, I think. Korean Professional Gamer Association. And yeah, I'm just gonna read out what So like they actually organized, the KPGA actually organized a strike. So their identity apparently was that of a legitimate players union, where they actually they organized a strike on behalf of the players for this team league, for NBC, who was broadcasting it. But this is where things get really murky. In the article, A Brief History of StarCraft, which this guy made part 1 and then just absolutely blue-balled us. Like, there's no part 2 that actually exists. He had aspirations of making part 2 and then never did. So, fucking womp womp. Anyway, still full of some nice things. I had to, read and clarify on some of the stuff I had gotten wrong. Okay, so after this 1.7 million investment, as was inevitable, the money completely changed the StarCraft scene. The players' union, KPGA, was taken over by the corporate sponsors and redubbed KESPA, Korean Esports Association. From the date of the takeover, players had no real leverage against their teams, which were invariably corporate-owned. Coordinated labor disputes between players and teams are basically unheard of. Yeah, so, obviously everyone hates KESPA. But what's weird is that I think this guy just gets the years wrong. And then there's really no actual evidence that there was a transfer of power in KESPA. But the only thing you really could go off of is KESPA's own website and their timeline. So, this guy basically is like, and then fucking Brood War went corporate, the sellouts, and KESPA became the baddies, and KPGA was awesome. But here's the thing: apparently, according to their timeline, the Game League Association, so he got the time wrong. So he got the timeline wrong. He said that the KPGA was formed in 2002, which is just incorrect. Obviously by late 2002, it became clear for something that might actually generate profits. This led to the formation of KPGA. That's not correct, because apparently the idea of it anyway formed in 1999. Then there was an official press conference that they named themselves the Korea Professional Game Association in 2000. Then, if you think that this is something that was led by a player, it wasn't, because Hambit Soft Company was appointed president of the association. Hambit Soft is a game publishing company. They were the ones that published StarCraft, and they owned the Hambit Stars team. So there was already corporate ownership of this organization before this guy attests that they went corporate. And then like I said, there's not really any there's no really other, I don't know how else I would find that they became worse after 2003 basically. Then there's they officially renamed in 2003. He got that right. And then SKT became the president in 2005, not 2003. So I don't know. I get my best guess as to what this information means. But yeah, I'm guessing that at the time, the name change wasn't viewed as suspicious, or the ins and out of who was on the board wasn't concerning. But in hindsight, we can say it was a shift. But it doesn't really seem like that's the case. I think this guy just got it wrong, but I wouldn't. It's very hard to double check. Because this brief history of StarCraft was made in 2017. It's not like he was there and he was closer to the situation so that he has a memory on it. So yeah, I'm guessing there's no one who is really, really interested in Brood War around this time that could clarify what happened, but he was then going to make an article talking about the Golden Age and some of its highlights and never did. Huh. Boxer vs. Grimto is the most memorable. How about that? I guess people doesn't really like watching I Love Oof. There's so many things. And there just always seems to be more that you discover when you search up more articles. And the next thing that I wanted to tackle was, Woman in Brood War. And this is, if you missed the earlier part of the stream, was where I noted that apparently old Team Liquid was incredibly sexist. Just really living up to the stereotype of a gamer nerd in 2008. But I can't find who one of the first woman OGN commentators was. Woman commentator on GameNet, Brood War. She's not the first one. That's her. She joined in 2008. There was someone else. But it always just brings up little Susie. It's not... Female pro gamers of Brood War. I think I read this actually. But it doesn't talk about the commentators. And yeah, there's very, very little information on all these people. I wonder if... Hwasun? Is that what it was? It was. Gamers had a sexism problem? I know, but it just, for how much Team Liquid really started to lay down the ban hammer when I was introduced to Team Liquid, that's shocking. I was wondering if maybe someone mentions who the commentators are, but they do not. Yep. She's going to be lost in history. They have had plenty of women in StarCraft in general. But I'm specifically looking for one of the first female commentators. And I can't. The only thing I can find is she joined in 2008. I wonder if she was in maybe even earlier. I wouldn't know. This is 2001. That's 2000. 1999. Doesn't sound like she's here. 2001. Star League commentators for Heavenly. Yeah. Eh. Did she only cast that one game? This is guy's voiceover. It's not what I want. It's not what I want! Go away, Moletrap. Just kidding. If you're around, you might know. Just won't be able to find it, I guess. Ripperino. Well, I'm going to have to admit to that, the lack of knowledge. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? There's only so much you can do, I suppose. Here's where maybe you guys will have more information. Here's the StarCraft 2 timeline. You guys want to go through it. You want to go through a big history walkthrough. Because there's a lot about StarCraft 2. Did you know that StarCraft 2 had Facebook integration? What the hell was about that? GSL Season 1, Fruit Dealer wins. Kept track of the home story cups. Miss MLG. I miss the sheer amount of tournaments that once existed. Any of them. The Boxer and Nestea thing, which is actually Foxer. But he was going by Boxer. But he was actually Marine King. There's just so many tournaments. These are all just GSLs. GSL Season 1, Season 2, Season 3, Season 4. They named them by months. That's how many GSLs there were. January, February, March. Can you imagine? I feel like I've gotten most of the important things. You know, the stuff that's hard to keep track of are like, yeah, like talk shows that were particularly interesting or community or really engaged with a particular episode. I don't think I put down the State of the Game Destiny episode. Yeah. Okay, well, that's extremely unhelpful, Google. Yeah. To Destiny rants. Nailed it. I wasn't on this. This isn't the right one. This is a different one. I did not nail it. I was like, I wasn't on that one. I definitely was not there for Destiny ranting about lack of microtransactions. Eternal server era. Wayback Machine is so cool. Oh, did he just copy paste it? Oh, I thought TT1 was responding to it. Okay. Could be an interesting read. Destiny's more elaborated points, I guess. It's still not. I mean, I want the specific state of the game, but it's so hard. Rant in control. Well, there's a Reddit thread about it, but they don't include the video. Oh my god. I hate you guys. Which freaking the awful sexist plot of StarCraft 2. I feel like I found it before though. That was weird. It wasn't on my playlist. Can you sort TL forums by time? Yes. So that's actually something I've actually done. I've literally gone into featured news and then just literally went through all of the threads to see what interesting stuff they might have brought up. But that's not going to help me find that Destiny video. And he went on to be like, really popular for controversial things. So Googling it has not gotten any easier. It's just a summary. It's not what I need. It's not what I need. It's not what I need. Yeah, you failed once again. You can add before. Okay, that's useful. Because it was like in 2012, I think. I'm pretty sure it was on State of the Game. But it might have been on Inside the Game. Yeah, I'm looking for the Destiny talk show where he talks about StarCraft 2 dying. It's kind of hard to find the actual like you have to go to State of the Game or Inside the Game's like playlists. I don't remember if DJ Wait jumps up on his chair or not. Yeah, we found the Reddit post. This is just TT1 copy pasting the Reddit post to Team Liquid. But I know the episode still exists. If I could just find the episode number, that would also help. Am I a fan of the changes? Because the PTR, no. I think they should just give up on the 8-worker thing. Give it up! Inside the Game, episode 57. Let's see. Oh, you might have gotten it. You might have done it. Oh, okay, because this is a highlight. Didn't Control just go high five Idra? Isn't Idra the first person to leave? Hard to say. Pain User kind of stuck around a little bit, but he didn't seem to be in a very good place. Ha ha! I see. Yeah, the problem is that it's a highlight. So, I mean, I'm not actually even sure what he means by like what things frustrate them. Which is this is just the crash out. I feel like I'm pretty sure I found inside the game episodes. It's so hard to find because it's like on DJ Waite's YouTube, maybe, but he didn't actually organize them in a playlist. So you got to go by like oldest and then, yeah, I guess just keep scrolling down. Link to full episode in the description. Oh, it's Twitch. It's Twitch though. Yeah. I feel like I actually did this before. Yeah, Twitch won't will only save highlights. Maybe episode 57. Hold on. We're scrolling. We're scrolling. Yep. Oh my god. Wait. Excuse me. Hey. 50. What the fuck? There it is. It's this one. We did it, Reddit. Yeah, right. October 23rd, 2012. Uh, uh, didn't deserve what happened to him. Wait, what happened to him? I don't even remember his career path, man. He's like a wannabe Joe Rogan. I mean, he's a political commentator, yes. So, yeah, streamer personality, gets a lot of his views from being intentionally controversial. But he's always done that, so. He reinvented talk radio for Zoomers. But I don't remember, like, what bad things happened to him, like, especially in the StarCraft years. I mean, this was considered a bad thing that happened to him because generally, at this point in time, people think that he was right. Back then, people thought he was, well, In Control is making fun of him right now, right? So they thought that. And then the way that he left this, as we saw in that highlight, also just made people further make fun of him. Plus, he was a mediocre NA Zerg, so he was a pretty easy target to make fun of. He tried drink driving once while streaming? This guy is such a... Look, I don't have many Destiny stories. He was actually nice to me. I met him maybe once or twice. Told the story before. I actually thanked him for making the Skype anti-DDoSing guide. But I almost was on a talk show with him, and then they roped in poor Gillyweed instead. And I just, oh God. Desro hosted a talk show. Desro was kind of just... He put on a very friendly face, but he was actually like this really kind of just bad guy who you would with a perfectly straight face be like, no, I had no idea that it was going to go like this. And then of course behind the scenes was like planning from the start for this to be a fucking shit show. So that's why I declined coming on. But Desro's talk show after What's His Face said that he was going to rape What's Her Face. I forget the pro gamers that were involved. And What's His Face was definitely just using gamer language. And What's Her Face actually was like really chill about it too. Like it wasn't even that big of a thing for them. Like he apologized and she was like, okay. But anyway, they make a talk show about this. And Desra was like, do you want to come on? And I'm like, suspiciously timed. Yeah, I'm sure we're going to be talking about WCS. For sure. No, thank you. And then Gillyweed gets on and Destiny does his political talk show bullshit of just basically yelling so he sounds like he's right, and then also trying to convince people that he's in the real world and they're all living in the fantasy land, because one of his exact arguments was like, you need to fucking toughen up, basically. Like, people are going to say that they're going to rape you and they're going to say really stupid shit all the time, but that doesn't actually mean they're going to do it. It's like really overblown, like, it shouldn't be a big problem. If you said you were going to rape someone in real life, there's nothing you can do about it whatsoever. So fucking grow up and get over it. I just remember watching this shit show unfold and being like, if you were in a professional workplace, any workplace, aside from esports apparently, and you told a coworker that you were going to rape them in yearly sales, you would absolutely get fired. This was true for 2013 as well. So the whole, like, Destiny, you just gotta live in the real world. You just gotta, like, you fucking man up. It's just, like, it was such a fucking stupid argument. Gillyweed was just, nice and didn't really come in with, like, a essay prepared to engage with Destiny's particular brand of arguing. And so she was just like, okay. God. Well, it depends how obvious you do it, of course. Like, there's a lot of caveats, I suppose. Sure. There is a lot of caveats. It depends on how you do it. Bro culture definitely existed. Blizzard themselves would get into a lot of trouble for a lot of the shit they did in their company. It's true. But as far as if you were in a meeting with like 20 people, with HR, with the other woman in your company, and it was as public as that video game was, you're at the very least going to be pulled aside, sent to HR, and then whether or not they actually do anything, I guess, is up to how bro-y the culture is. But it was 100% not an okay thing to do. It was something that you did that would hopefully be swept under the rug. because it was a bad thing, but you're a bro, so they're gonna cover your ass. But it still doesn't mean that this is the real world is like Destiny. When have you ever lived in the real world? I haven't even lived in the real world, but at least I'm not some extreme political commentator. God. Tried to stalk his manager. She was cyber stalking him. She posted dick pics. Oh, that's right. Yeah. One of the yeah. That's true. Yeah, I forgot about the dick pics. Thankfully, my curiosity was never so piqued as to look into it. And then, I mean, I think much later on, like after his StarCraft 2 career, I think he also was outed. There was like a sex tape of him released. So not only was it a sex tape release, which is no gusta, he was also doing it with a guy, I think, and that also was pretty fucked up. So a lot of fucked up things have happened to Destiny that he didn't deserve, but then he's not exactly innocent who's done nothing wrong in his life. Oh, that's right. Yeah. It's a right-wing influencer. But still overall bad. I'm gonna listen to this. BRB. His original dick pic, which is just an amazing way of putting it, I don't think was that case. There was another one, but yeah, I also don't really want to Google it. Maybe hold on. I have to maybe read the posts because I don't understand what he thinks we're going to do. They're talking about waiting for Blizzard to do stuff. What is he? Wait. What were the other options? I thought his whole point was like Blizzard needs to do something about this. Okay, I'm just gonna listen more. Wait, what? That almost sounded like a joke. That they're like, we could give you a landline as long as you hire security for it. But you had to hire security for it? That's so funny. Security to get access to StarCraft 2's LAN server? That's good. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense when I think about it, but it sounds like Hearthstone earlier, just like I was talking with David Kim. It just sounded like the intro to a joke. LAN server actually used but turned to work even worse than the approach to connection? It's very possible. I haven't, I was definitely never one to really pay attention to those aspects, you know? Like, that would have been a terrible tournament admin, because players would have been like, we need to upgrade to 144 hertz monitors, and I'd be like, 60 hertz is fine. Get over yourself. But, I definitely remember a lot of conversation around, like, there's been a lot of times where, like, the supposed whitelisting failed. It's almost positive, yeah, there was something about the official LAN server not being good for some reason. I don't remember why. Oh, yeah. Well, who's, you know, this is, look, all right, again, like, Destiny's, he's you can't really argue that Destiny wasn't onto something as far as the future goes, okay? As far as his streaming persona and the, how do you want to call it? The, I guess the advancement of streaming generally, you know, like, he was one of the first guys to advocate for people actually using a camera and actually having a mic and actually being good audio. Then he was definitely forward-thinking enough to actually make a website where his subscriptions would go right to him rather than just depending on Twitch subs. Like, he was, you know, hindsight 2020 and all that, but it makes a ton of sense the way that he's gone down his career path, doesn't it? It's very obvious that this wasn't someone who was very different, saw a trend, and then hopped on that trend. He was already in the trend, man. I think it predated Twitch subs. I'm not certain. It's possible, it is, but I'm not certain about that. I feel it might have been like around the same time when they were like, we should, you know, we're gonna give subs, and he was like, oh yeah, but I want all the money. Not sure. Oh, it's true. He was on Own 3D. Yeah. Oh, good times. Yeah, for the YouTube people, you're not hearing anything. It's because VOD excluded. I think I can. I have to remember to check it back on. Though.
Fucking line before there was StarCraft 2 tournaments.
Brood War tournaments. I mean, that's the only other thing that I.
You didn't watch Brood War tournaments. You watched VODs, right? Yeah, you watched VOD of Korean. And then what happened? And then the beta comes out. There's like Day 9 does his giant thing. Suddenly players are streaming. Suddenly fucking every tournament, every other goddamn weekend is broadcasting, you know, online, and they're setting the standard. Like, do you agree or do you not agree? Do you really not credit StarCraft 2 for at least creating this online video streaming culture when it comes to competitive gaming and streaming tournaments?
Yeah, I mean, I'll give them that. It definitely helped. But that's not what this conversation is about at all.
The bigger thing is that what does a few retards going on Twitter and posting save HOTS actually do to fix this issue? Do you think that makes it more likely?
No, that is nothing. I wasn't with that group. I don't think the issue is savable. I think it's fucked completely. This is the problem, okay?
Posting that's completely unproductive. Because like Blizzard kind of sucks. Like I agree with that. I've been pretty vocal about that. But they are not the only answer. And by posting this big negative thing, when you do have a big fan base, that just makes the entire community be negative about it. And just worry about that and try and yell at Blizzard instead of actually focusing on the things that we can correct, which is supporting the teams, supporting the players, supporting the tournaments, and actually being positive.
None of that matters. None of that matters. Okay, this is the biggest problem
have no control over the game.
Yeah, but
as professionals who exist in this little clique of professionals, okay, sometimes I say we, okay, you guys get this idea that, okay, like we really need to grow esports. So what we need is we need to bump up player salaries, we need tournaments, we need better coverage. That's all secondary to the first and the most important thing. And the most important thing is how many fucking people play your game. Because a percentage of the people that play the game are going to be involved in the community.
Is by making the product we produce better. Because
Blizzard you see how backwards what you're saying is too? Exactly. Let me put it. I basically repeat what Greg just said, but you recognize that Blizzard is doing a poor job, and then you actually tell the community like it's all up to Blizzard to fix this by the third expansion.
Yes, because Blizzard is the only company that can actually change their client to grow the player base, to give us more people to advertise our tournaments.
They're the only ones who can change the client.
I don't think that's true.
They're not the only ones
I mean, at the end of the day,
tell me how you're going to get more casual players interested in the game. Because I'm telling you right now, the casual player doesn't give a fuck about late game ZVP. The casual player doesn't give a fuck about coin flip builds in ZVZ. The casual player doesn't give a fuck about
casual players enjoy watching tournaments. Otherwise, LoL tournaments wouldn't have nearly as many viewers because most of them are casual. So if we put out better tournaments, then we get more viewers, which is more casual players.
Tournaments instead of 100,000 people watching. Or 600,000.
I think also, though, you're kind of ignoring something. Like, you keep citing Brood War as this amazing spectator event. Did you know that Brood War was perhaps the biggest example of the worst casual experience in existence for gaming, but the highest end in terms of skill-based game? Like, StarCraft, real-time strategy as a genre, is a genre of a game that's going to have a far and away larger interest overall of people that respect the level of play and like watching it than they actually like getting involved. That's the opposite, however, Steven, with MOBAs like LoL, where it's so accessible that, yes, the top end is extremely skilled. I'm not trying to make some weird LoL critique where I say it's an easy game. But what I am saying is I can download it for free, I can play it for free, and I can kill 2 people in a game and enjoy some level of success, whereas in StarCraft 2, I have to pay for it, go play it, and then I'm probably going to get my ass handed to me while I don't know how to build a Hydralisk.
Yeah, and you have to
it's
learn
completely different because Battle.net was an incredibly social experience. A lot of people could go online and play canon defense because the use map settings systems didn't suck the dick. The Battle.net, the entire chat interface, the entire having friends, the entire having ops and channels kept everybody in that community really fucking active. There were tons of people who would log on just to chat with friends and play UMS games. How many times does that happen in StarCraft 2? You can't even fucking find a UMS game unless it's like Nexus Cannon Wars or some shit.
They're doing that. They're trying. They're adding clan support. They're adding replays view.
Fuck! It's been 2 fucking years. These things existed in games that were released 15 years ago. That's not an acceptable excuse from a multi-billion-dollar corporation out of their Blizzard Activision. We're trying to get features rolled out that were out 15 years ago. Are you fucking kidding me?
at the end of the day, the buck stops with Blizzard to make any of these kind of changes. Now, the question here, I think, is, are we going about approaching them in the right way? I think it's in Blizzard's hands no matter what. We can't deny that. They're the only ones that can change their client. Well, Jeff, I mean, we can rally together.
Like, that aspect of thing is definitely within Blizzard's control, but we're not going to change Blizzard.
Not what
We've been yelling at them for 2 years.
Yeah.
Like, they're not changing.
Fundamental
we should
difference
focus on the things that we can do.
Exactly.
But I mean, okay. Well, if you take what Destiny's been saying, for instance, I mean, we've mentioned this on previous episodes of the show multiple times. How we've said even the original BattleNet was a far superior user interface.
Yeah.
Even integrating a simple form of IRC coded by Blizzard that they own, that has different clan channels. Everybody can interact.
Yeah, I mean, I think that naturally would have gone away, but I think in 2012 there was still a pretty strong case for BattleNet still being a potential come together experience. Yeah, I just am confused about what the real argument is here. Like, it feels like one camp is Destiny is yelling that Blizzard needs to fix its shit when it comes to appealing to to casuals. And these guys are saying we can't do anything about that, so let's focus on what we can do for the game. And I feel like that's both sides are right. Overreactions to Dota is what killed Blizzard. That's a nice essay. Oh, the arcade was terrible, yeah. No, they absolutely did not capture the magic that was Warcraft 3 BattleNet. Totally. And a lot of that, yeah, was the lockdown that Blizzard did on other games. Many lockdowns, right? They locked down the arcade in that, well, I mean, not to say this was the reason the arcade was bad, but they did lock down the amount of stuff that you could, let's say, reference, like Dragon Ball Z Tower Defense and stuff like that, right? And they locked down their rights to whatever you made with their editor, so that did turn at least some people off. What else was I gonna say? Shit. Oh, and they locked down the ability to share StarCraft. Brood War was just a bunch of broken Brood Wars. That's what you played in Korea, and that's what you played even in PC bongs. And then locked that down as well. I think it was called Arcade. I think it was. Maybe not. Maybe it was just actually called Custom Games, which, yeah, would have also been bad. They couldn't let that Dota loss go, right? Economy video is awesome. Thank you, Koff. No, Discord wasn't a thing. Yeah, it was Skype was huge at this time. Skype's where you went. Skype's the groups you interacted with. But I mean, this is around the time that I was still I was in Skype groups, but I was also in clans, I guess. Chat channels. Apparently clans didn't exist. And I was joining 1v1 obs, and I was making friends that I was in the PMS H2O clan. That's what I was in. But it was a chat channel, I guess. And yeah, I still that's still where you logged on and you made friends with other StarCraft people. And you'd all join 1v1 obs, and then if someone was cool there, you'd include them into the group. So this was still before social media had really taken the online client experience entirely out, So it's not wrong to say if we had done better here, then this would have been better. But eventually at some point, I don't know exact year, but eventually Yeah, there definitely would have been like, who even fucking cares about Battle.net, even if they had all the amazing features. But I think they'd still, the arcade being better would still be a lot more casual. So just, there wouldn't be this whole like, you got to get on to Battle.net and be with your friends experience.
There's a social experience. It's almost like they want it to be sort of this isolated experience.
I hate to say this, but I think you're kind of missing the argument. Like, those are all things that Greg and I and we have said we agree, and that's what and the argument is actually located where Steven says that's the only way. Is Blizzard makes those changes, but they haven't because they fucked up for 2 years. And Greg, Wheat, and I are saying that is not the only way that this game goes.
Well, we got to propose some
alternatives. It's not the only way, but the positive effect that Blizzard could have on the community by changing those things are 95% of the possible new players you could bring in. Yeah, you can get a few new people in, I guess, by having like replays for tournaments or whatever. Like, that stuff is fine. But if you were to double the size of your player base, you would grow the size of every other tournament without anybody even having to do anything. Whereas you have to put in all this effort to just, like, you're fighting and fighting and fighting to trying to get the few people that play this game just to watch your tournaments. Why not have a company that can make a few really simple changes and double or triple the size of your player base right off the bat?
Because they haven't for 2 years, and we've been bitching at them for 2 years. It's not going to change, so why the fuck bother?
Don't put it all in on them. It's a bad all in, Steven.
Yeah. It's not an all in. It's fucking like
you're trying to actually.
It's 95% of your stack. You just said that, so I'm sorry for using.
In your post, you literally said the only thing that can save it is Blizzard. So that's kind of like the definition.
Because to some extent, like, if Blizzard isn't like selling more copies of the game, like, then that's it. Then you're fucked. Like, who wants to fight? Why would tournaments want to sit here and fight so hard to attract the viewership of a game with 2 million active players when they could just cater to an audience like League of Legends or Dota with millions?
Okay. Hold on 1 second, because once again, Destiny, you bring up League of Legends and you bring up Dota. I just want to know. Is League of Legends your staple for success?
Yeah, I would say so right now.
So by you saying that League of Legends is a staple for success, you are also dooming pretty much every other fucking game that's going to come out for quite some time, because nothing is going to be able to match the numbers of League of Legends anytime soon.
I'm not talking about numbers. I'm not talking about numbers, though.
The model.
No, we are talking about numbers, because when you talk about increasing the number of casual players in a game, then you're directly talking about comparing the numbers, because we know that's the only way that StarCraft is actually going to grow inherently. Other than
I think it's the free-to-play model. To be honest, I think it's the free-to-play model.
It's absolutely the free-to-play.
That's what it is.
There are two things. One is there's an appeal to casual players. That appeal exists in the form of unranked play. An unranked play that's based on a hidden MMR. That is super appealing to people because you get to go online, you can play with friends, you can play alone, and you don't have to stress out about the fucking, like, when you go to StarCraft 2, it's like 1v1, ladder, fuck, diamond, gold. Like, everything is like, holy fuck, this is competitive as shit. Nobody who's a casual player wants to play that. Nobody wants to fucking play shit. That's stressful as fuck.
That's an announced part of part of Heart of the Swarm.
That's coming in, Steven.
It's great that they're getting that into the expansion of their $60 game, fucking 2 years late, but holy fuck.
No one is defending Blizzard.
Are you just mad at them for being late, or do you actually think the game's going to die?
Are you just mad at them for being... Dude, it's fucking Blizzard! How can you guys sit here and make excuses for a company that makes fucking millions of dollars every month?
The more that I watch this, the more... Like, I feel like before watching this... I might have watched this when it was live. I don't remember. I was a big fan of Inside the Game, though. But maybe I missed this, or I missed this particular part. I don't know. But I feel like I remember when everyone was making fun of Destiny for this. I do remember that. I then definitely, however many years later, was on the side that, like, obviously he was right. Like, StarCraft really needed a lot of more things, right? Now I feel like I'm back to... I can see why people made fun of Destiny. Like, this is absolutely... One, this feels like a fucking useless argument. Alright? This whole discussion actually feels kind of fucking useless. Like, the topic sentence has not even been described for the conversation to then unfold. You know what I mean? Like, they're just yelling at each other on, like, particular points about it, but there's not even, like, what is the end goal here? What are we trying to, like, debate each other on? They don't fucking know. But that Destiny has such an obnoxious... I mean, In Control's not helping, obviously. But Idra and Pain User, they talk fine. DJ Wheat's middle of the road, I guess. But, like, DJ Wheat just chooses Destiny chooses so many opportunities that are totally unnecessary to be mocking. Like, when In Control asked, I think, a fairly reasonable question. He just went into baby talk whining mode. Like, no wonder everyone fucking hated Destiny after this. Even if you're right, which he is, but again, they're not even really, like, I don't even understand what this argument is. They basically agree with each other, and then they're just yelling at each other. If you say a right thing in a fucking terrible way, I still think you deserve to be mocked. It's just, it's not what I was expecting. But I did not remember at all how this conversation unfolded. He was wrong. Smash Melee exploding popularity proves that grassroots can work to an extent. Yeah, sure, yeah. What did Destiny play before StarCraft 2? I have no idea. So Ineloquent runs a political talk show. I mean, you know, are you really? I mean, can are you really surprised? I don't really think about it. I mean, people, as much as it seems to be the people that also say the stupid, you know, facts over feelings, they are also the ones that are usually just, what's the word? Appealing to people's hearts rather than their minds, right? Someone just yelling and mocking the opponent and getting you to rah their team, their side, their point. Like, that's, we're seeing how well that works. The intensity of something that could have been agree to disagree. Well, that too, obviously, you know. That wouldn't be very good television, of course. And, you know, to a certain extent, we love the villains here. This is why further talk shows failed, because basically all of the really extreme people, including like the assholes, actually left StarCraft, and then you were left with like a bunch of like reasonable people, and it was just like, oh god, whoever wants to watch this. Destiny mocks you in a forest. Someone's around a stream. Did it ever happen? Trying to get the tuck stops that had paid Wi-Fi to listen to this live. Nice. Okay, sure. Ragnarok would be a great villain. Chanman, who is, well, Chanman seems like a nice enough guy, but yeah, he absolutely was viewbotting. And I don't think he was particularly engaging host. I also didn't think JP was an engaging host. There's like I watched Inside the Game way more than I ever watched State of the Game.
No one is making excuses.
Yeah, I'm not making excuses.
You're making excuses. Are you mad because it's just 2 years late that they're getting these excuses? Yeah, I'm fucking mad. It's terrible. It's fucking over the entire StarCraft 2 scene. It affects your salaries. It affects the money that you compete for at tournaments, and it affects every single other part of the scene.
But actually, nothing has changed yet. Like, nothing has actually changed yet, Steven, right? Like, nothing. A salary has not been affected.
I'm getting a raise this next contract.
Well, there you go. That's the part I don't understand.
I mean, like, all of the smart people in the community realize that this is a little blip, and that viewership's going to go back up as soon as Heart of the Swarm comes out, no matter how bad Blizzard fucks it up, because they've done that before, and we've just kept on rolling. And that's what's going to keep happening.
I'm pretty sure everybody expected Heart of the Swarm 2 streams, or Heart of the Swarm streams and Heart of the Swarm tournaments to get much bigger viewership than they are now. I mean, I'm sure there's like still like a little bump, and when it releases there'll be a little bump, but people were expecting like a rejuvenation or a reinvigoration of the game when Heart of the Swarm comes out. I don't see that happening.
I mean, you said people are expecting, but we haven't, like, nothing has actually happened yet. Like, until the game comes out, we can't even begin to to speculate what may happen. I mean,
You can have a reasonable expectation of resurgence of interest when an expansion to a popular game comes out.
When the beta went up,
it hasn't come out yet.
Okay.
Immediately.
It
like,
hasn't,
fucking
yeah.
Truby was getting like 5,000 viewers. That's not supposed to happen. It did bump up, but then people realized how unexciting it is to watch a game that's clearly broken, that's going to change in the next week. Like that makes perfect sense. That's nothing to do with the game or the client or whatever. It's just the fact that it's the beta. And so
also,
until the
how
actual
many
game
times
releases,
does the beta to a sequel come out?
yeah,
It is
Until the actual
I didn't hear that. How many times
can't
did the
say it
what?
failed.
the beta,
the beta
to a sequel comes out.
comes
Like,
out.
there's already the pre-existing game. People weren't watching Panda Rain beta streams like there's no fucking tomorrow. When it actually comes out, I'll tell you what, Steven. I will stand on that street corner and hold up those end of days signs with you if when Heart of the Swarm comes out, the numbers again dip. But I guarantee you they won't. And I think you know that too. I think you know that.
I mean, they're going to go up a little bit when it comes out, but it's not going to be the growth that we were looking for. And it's going
How
to
do
go
you know
right
that?
back to what it was before and back to sinking as soon as it releases.
It's always going to peak and
care
then
about the
dip.
competitive
That's
or the
real-time
side.
strategy. It's always going to peak and dip. But as
Okay,
long as it's one of the biggest and most played games that people have at every tournament, that's what we want for the community. Isn't that right?
I think there's
It's hard to see if the numbers dipped between Wings of Liberty and Heart of the Swarm. I can tell you that a year into Heart of the Swarm, the numbers halved. But yeah, I couldn't. It's really hard to go back to viewership from 2011, 2012. Is that when they separated the circuits? No, there is a direct comparison between WCS Europe Season 1 and WCS Europe Season 1 2013 and 2014. So there wasn't a change to the format. It was still the same format, but it was half of the previous year's viewership.
a huge lack. Like, I certainly don't think that it's going to pick us back up to where we were, say, beta era. There's definitely going to be a spike, but
Well,
I'm not convinced.
We couldn't get picked up to beta era because the numbers now compared to beta era are fucking like hilariously larger.
For the big events.
No,
But-
I mean, you guys like individual streamers used to get like 600. Used to get, you know, yes, fuck
Right.
yeah, dude.
Yeah, well,
like,
compared to
fair.
maybe a couple years ago, but stream viewership numbers for everything is down now compared to 6 months ago.
actually,
You can talk to
stream
somebody-
viewers for everything is up. It's just spread out more because every single month that I have worked for Twitch, which is
You wouldn't know
18
that.
fucking months, it's only gone up. Like, that's the one thing I don't understand is that people need to realize that the streaming numbers are not going down. In fact, they're fucking skyrocketing every month. We're like, Jesus, we thought that it was going to fucking plateau, but god damn it, people keep on watching games. It may not be StarCraft, but people are watching more shit. In fact, it might be, maybe we should start blaming
Wait, how does
speedruns.
Andrew feel about that?
No.
I'm curious. How do you feel about that? You think stream numbers are the same right now that they were 6 months to a year ago?
No, they're
His point,
they're mathematically
that's
going
not
up.
what he's saying.
Right, that stream numbers are growing, but the amount of shit that is out there has spread out so much that people are like refocusing their eyeballs. Maybe this show lost a few people because someone started watching Siglamek run in fucking Super Mario 64. But I'm not going to put up a fucking doomsday prophecy saying that, god damn it, guys, speed running is fucking with StarCraft 2. Like, I
When
think
Wings
that
of Liberty
people
came out,
look
what was
at
the competitive game? What was the game that people decided between
I mean, now we're
Wings of
just kind of
Liberty
going
and then this other game? What did they watch? My point is there was nothing else,
There was
right?
nothing else.
Nothing else. So to compare this
Yeah.
to that, when we
Yeah,
have
I'm just
Han,
chatting.
or not Han, whoa, shit.
I don't care about
When we
Star
have
Trek 2.
Dota 2 on the rise, we have League of Legends leading the charge. People have games and genres to choose between, which is what Wheat's talking about when he says the overall viewership's rising. It's not isolated in one game. And that's why there's some of us that get emotionally charged about this, Stephen, when you talk about it, because these 2 years of StarCraft 2, you look at it as stagnation and failure. I look at it as breaking through and making the way so that other games can get on the scale of StarCraft 2 or above and beyond, like League of Legends. and create a world where people are choosing between games to play for a living, as opposed to saying either I play StarCraft 2 or I travel to events in pajama pants and yell at fat people on the stream and play fighting games with the fight stick.
Okay, but here's the problem.
try it.
And I don't understand how you or anybody that comes from Brood War isn't more mad. Brood War was the flagship esports. Like it was like the fucking the shit. Like everybody looked at Brood.
I mean, I also think Destiny continually bringing up Brood War is just so. It's basically unnecessary, I guess is the best way to put it. There's no point. Like, I can't. At no point do they push back on this, I guess. Maybe a little. But, yeah, it's actually basically not equivalent. Like, I don't even know where to start. Brood War being brought up is just so unimportant. It's like. I don't know. Maybe we'll hear what they say.
It's like an example of this is what esports should be. The huge tournaments, the players, like all these guys getting paid hundreds of thousands of dollars in Korea. It's the shit. StarCraft 2 comes out and Blizzard hypes it as this is the predecessor to Brood War. It's gonna be the shit. This is the esports. Everything is about esports.
Does he mean the successor?
And it comes out and there are some problems, but we're all really fucking excited because of StarCraft 2. I'm sure they'll get LAN eventually. Oh, the game launched without chat channels. Oh, I'm sure we'll be able to have fucking name changes and multiple accounts. It's coming. 2 years later, you have a game that's the mechanical skill ceiling to LoL is so much lower than StarCraft 2. You guys all fucking know this. If you would have said 2 years
Calling
ago,
this as a debate
this
is
game where
generous.
you can play with other friends and you can't even deny your own asses, I'm sure it's coming. Oh, don't worry, it's coming in Heart of the Swarm. We'll have LAN for tournaments.
Totally agree with you that Blizzard needs to do a much better job attracting the casual player and they create something where there are microtransactions for you're speaking about that's still been selling these microtransactions.
Want to play ladder or don't want to watch tournaments, haven't heard of the tournaments. They just get on and play because it's fun, because you get click use map settings and there's
a better system though is the thing. You felt more a part of the community.
Yeah, this is all a pipe dream.
You actually clicked on half the use map settings lobbies and it was either a guy yelling the N-word or F-word or some shit, or it was nobody was there because they were AFK and you could join any game, or the game had already launched but it was still in the actual map selection. That happened all the time too. It had its
okay, that was a minority of the time. Can we get some people to play Brood War? Come on, did you play the youth map settings game? You can't tell me that they were all like that. You could find youth map settings games.
I'm telling you that it's not all the way you're saying it is.
You could fuck around all sorts of times there. We're ahead of what we have now.
It's way better than the current version.
But that doesn't
Way
matter.
better.
You're
Much better.
You're the one who's actually trying to defend Blizzard here. We're all saying that they fucked up and they're not going to fix it. So stop hoping for them to fix it and try and focus on the things that we can actually do.
If we can't hope for Blizzard to do anything, then it's time to just switch fucking games because the audience of this game will only continue to dwindle.
Stop.
Well, we got to the highlight. We got to the end of this so-called discussion. Apparently, somebody didn't play StarCraft 2 for this time. Or would you ever want chats like global chat? It was just. I mean, to be honest, it seems like a question everyone's asked actually since the beginning of time. No. Even though global chat was never a good chat in any iteration of Battle.net, as far as I can recall, it lets you know that there was a chat system with people playing, and occasionally people would say something useful in those chats, like looking for, Diamond League players, join X clan, join this chat channel and apply or whatever, or looking for experienced Dota players, message me, something like that, right? So it just was a way of saying there's a community here, and then you would hopefully go off and diverge into other communities that didn't type the N-word as often. So yeah, there was definitely an appeal to it, but it was before Discord, it was before Skype, this is back when you were on, AIM, and it just. The concept of going someplace to a town square, if you will, where everyone else in the town square was also really interested in this video game was a really neat concept. Now it would be completely useless, even if they made this the best chat of Battle.net of all time, no one would care. Or you could look for communities who typed it more, yeah, exactly. Yeah, of course, he's advocating for microtransactions. No, I mean, that's totally fine, too. The thing is you also have to remember that this is actually still before microtransactions were seen as more of a meme. which is arguably what StarCraft 2 was always going to be careful of anyway. I mean, I don't remember exactly when microtransactions became a meme, to be fair, but I mean, the horse armor. I don't know when that came out, but even if it was out around this time, there was always this idea that StarCraft would do microtransactions in a way that didn't end the game, but basically encouraging StarCraft to move on to a new updated video game model. I mean, that makes total sense. 2011 was like 5 years ago, right? It wasn't always same people 3. Yeah, it wasn't always. No. Yeah, I met tons of people through the Warcraft 3 chat for sure. Anyway, yeah. So they never really even pushed back on this whole Brood War thing. But this is actually so weirdly similar to this like worker start thing. It's funny, but this is not the game design. This is the outside of the game design stuff that he's talking about. But it still kind of holds to the same end point, which is like there is no comparing it to Brood War. Actually, you can look at what Brood War did and say that's a good idea, that worked out well. Let's see if we can try and mimic the reasons these are good things, right? Like if we can give another platform for people to play the game casually, like arcade games, that is good, 100%. Oh, pretty much I think I always believed that. If you can get a economic system in StarCraft 2 that rewards expanding more than punishes, like great, we'll try and do that, right? But I feel like just allowing Destiny to be like, we got to be more like Brood War. Brood War's amazing. Brood War's the best. How can you guys go from being like so into Brood War and it's the most amazing in the world to being content with what StarCraft 2 is? And at no point does anyone, and I think this is quite funny, say, bruh, when we were playing Brood War, so Idra in control, right? We had no team, no salary, no events more than once a year, because Brood War was so uniquely special to South Korea that there is no equivalent and never will be. There's just nothing. And I'm surprised they never once brought that up. But it's like, even if you did implement a better arcade system, like, in a lot of ways it sounds like Destiny's just like, if you just added this and you did that and you made it more like this, then we would have Brood War packed stadiums and it'd be so amazing. It's like, that would never happen. I mean, even arguably in 2012, StarCraft 2, well, I guess StarCraft 1 would have been literally having its last OSL. Probably already did, actually, by October 2012. But yeah, the how to say, like, the prestige? Yeah, the prestige and the, the fact that it's, like, being broadcast on actual television would not have been equivalent in StarCraft 2 at this time. We never got on official television. Stardy Rock, I don't know if you're the same guy in the Reddit thread, but I really don't want to hash this over again. It feels like a lot of other people can see how... Oh, okay. Well, here it is then. It seems like a lot of people can see how it rewards rather than punishes, except for like you and another guy. Yeah, and I don't know if I really have the energy to go all into it again. Some non-Korean players got money from Brood War. Idra was literally one of the very few non-Korean players to be on a Korean team. Elke made money in 2003. Before Koreans just absolutely dominated. He was one of the last non-Koreans to do very well. But even he wasn't making that much money. And he eventually moved on to poker. If you had 60 seasons of StarCraft 2, you could stack all 48 SCVs on close mineral patches and get Brood War-like numbers in income. Okay, let's go on. Peak eco argument did not match modern Brood War understanding. For example, in TVP and Brood War, you reach max economics slightly before 10 minutes. Yeah, Lush would have to update that. I'd like to see your studies on the max economy. I don't think that's true. You're talking about the peak economy argument. I don't watch as much Brood War as I used to, but I'm pretty sure that's not true. You don't reach peak economy before 10 minutes in Brood War. And I don't. So take away the literal like 48 SCV example, because yeah, there is some also used to Maynarding, for example, if you transfer workers to only the closest mineral patches. That still doesn't make it completely, what's the word? That doesn't make it a completely null point. Those figures aren't great for StarCraft 2 either. It doesn't peak at 50. I don't even know where 58 SCVs came from. The example in the treaties article was 75 workers, actually. From the graphs and active work, I mean, which ones? You got to be more specific. Like, there's so many articles, which is why I'm asking you to be specific. Yeah, you can link whatever. This one. Okay, yeah. Remember this one, sure. Link whatever. This one? This one. Okay, are you... You know this is from Heart of the Swarm, right? And these are averages, right? We do know the game better. This isn't this. Well, I assume so. To be fair, Lelouch didn't cite the games that he drew from, but these are averages, right? Okay. Yeah, people are a lot happier going to higher worker counts. I would have to... Excuse me. You would have to get an average of games there as well. Because it sounds like you're discussing a lot of like the like... I guess you use the word peak, but peak games where people are allowed to get to a certain stage in StarCraft, rather than the average game, which usually doesn't actually get to, let's say, like 5 or 6 bases. So modern games are faster tempo. People have absolutely learned how to defend well, learn how to get to greedier builds without taking as many risks. That's what happened in Brood War as well, right? That's true. Yeah. But I still don't see the actual argument against this reward versus punish thing. When it just like it just feels like the graphs and the examples given just seem so convincing. And we're not talking about just these graphs. The marginal benefit of taking new CC. You don't see Terran's mass expanded in Brood War. No, that's very true. Yeah. But what you do see, sorry, I was reading another comment. What you do see, though, is a lot of the time we talk about the like strategic variety, right, when it comes to expanding, and then choosing what to do, maybe like instead of expanding. We were kind of talking about this when we were trying to think up a really good like tagline for why it also feels better in Brood War to cheese and to harass rather than in StarCraft 2, which is this big talking point that's happening. Not that StarCraft 2 doesn't have cheeses. Like, that's a really overblown thing that people are discussing when it comes to current live StarCraft 2. And certainly, like, some of the things we were trying to understand was the curve. There we go. The curve, the graph of the economy. When you say Brood War cheese in mind, do you have anything particular? I mean, you have Brood War cheese. Do you have anything particular in mind? I do not. This is totally just a general, vague idea, right? People have this idea that in Brood War, there's more 1 base and 2 base committals that aren't truly committals, I guess, but that seem to liven up the game in a way that StarCraft 2 doesn't, because StarCraft 2 just skips to 3cc, which again I think is overblown either way. When we keep it vague, we don't know what we're aiming for. Well, and that I kind of agree. Like, StarCraft 2's critiques that are coming out from this worker discussion seem to actually miss a lot of things that are actually happening in StarCraft 2. That there are actually games that have diverse build openers that have downsides that can be exploited. That there's plenty of games that still actually are interesting from minute 0. And that Brood War, on the opposite side, doesn't always have these very interesting 1 base plays into 2 base plays, into race to the 3rd and 4th bases that are just so close and so dynamic and so amazing. Both sides are truly overblown as to how good or how bad they are. Like, some people pointed to the Flash finals of Brood War as like a really great thing, when I would say it's easily as good to say that it was a bad thing. That Flash's whole, I'll get away with the command center first until he, what did he do? 4 pool, legitimately? Some early pool? Stops me from doing it. Or that the games as a whole ended surprisingly early, when I think people were really hoping for, again, this whole, like, amazing idea of Brood War, which is like the 6 pool or the 4 pool will lead into just enough damage that will lead into a tight 2 base versus 3 base that will lead into this amazing 6 base versus 7 base engagement. you know, and that just actually never happened in those finals. Then you can go and tell all the people who keep thinking that less workers means you're going to have the most diverse gameplay ever. Please go to the guy who keeps saying we should just go less. We should go to 4 workers. Please go tell this to that guy. But obviously you read Lelouch's graphs. Did you read any of the other economy threads and how the graphs of economy work in all the games? And how generally, how are they putting it? There's a linear versus... Someone help me out here. Progression of economy when it comes to StarCraft 2 versus Brood War. Is it exponential? Exponential might be correct. Logarithmic? I think that's the fancy word. Oh, this isn't really helping me. Nope. Nope, that's too many. That's too many. That's too many words. It's too many. Ragnar Arquette would know, but she left. God. In StarCraft 2, the graph with the workers goes up, and then it goes boop. And then the graph with Brood War goes up, and then it just kind of keeps going up. Hey. That is log. There you go. Having a map maker decide how many workers you start with would make for a better viewing. No. I don't think map makers deciding stuff would make a better viewing experience. The rest is all Greek. I feel like, I mean, that was like the most basic way I could put it. Oh, I mean, I disagree that it has nothing to do with how workers mine. I definitely disagree with that. I do agree that it is more than just how the workers mine. I think there's some benefits to looking into all of the models that were described in such things like the treaties article. Then you know, whatever this suggests. Obviously I talked about the problems with macro mechanics. What's the other one that had fancy? There was one that had like the most graphs. We got to bring that to the copy pasta of the bigger channels. We can talk about these graphs. Where was that? There's one that I had to look up my own video that had so many that I definitely didn't even bother really understanding it. It was too much. Oh my god, I think it's this one. This sounds really fancy. This is Jesus Christ. But yeah, this includes the legacy of the void economy too, which is nice. Worker count depends on map or map type. Nah, that's way too many rules to remember. I think that's way too, people have kind of memed about just like randomizing the amount of workers you start with, but I think that's actually a very unpleasant experience. Small numbers, goon smash tanks. Easily expand, returns you set up certain tank position. Wait, forget blink, what else keep? Feels like when discussion of map features keep people to base longer. People are vehemently against it, but that is a conscious choice. So again, like I think there's so many things that go into this, right? As you seem to also agree with, like the dynamics of the army interactions. Literally, the fact that it's a tank that's your go-to in TVP drastically changes compared to your bio, right? High ground advantage, also drastically different. And actually, one of these articles even suggests implementing high ground advantage if they also, I think it's the worker pairing removal. That actually talks about high ground advantage. There you go. High ground advantage. Yeah. In StarCraft 2, it's not nearly as fun to watch someone turtle on two bases. Like, one of these articles also describes why TVP is fun to watch in Brood War, even though it can be looked at oftentimes being a 3-base turtler versus a mass expander, which we've had in StarCraft 2. But for some reason, just doesn't really feel quite as bad. And again, they went on to point to the benefit of expanding. They also pointed to the peak economy and also the amount of infrastructure. Because you said peak economy was met super early in Brood War, but I feel like maybe you're just talking about literally how many workers you want to create. When peak economy was also basically arguing that you didn't need to make more infrastructure. You had all your technology done as well. Yeah, I guess then I feel like I'm forgetting one. Yeah. But that was obviously different in Brood War, where you would want to continue making a lot of gateways and possibly setting up a transition, I suppose. And it also talks about the amount of trading that goes on and why StarCraft 2 seems to go more into restricting ourselves from engaging, because StarCraft 2 doesn't reward engaging at cost inefficiency due to how the mining works. I mean, you could argue with me all day and be like, aha! I gotcha, ZombieGrub. Fucking stop saying this shit. And I could be like, okay, I'm not going to say it. I'm going to say that this guy said it, and he seems pretty smart. And if you want to go argue with those guys, by all means, please do so. But that's why I'm like, I don't know if I have the energy for this anymore. I was never presenting myself as the knowledgeable person in this situation to begin with. What I was trying to point out is that there was already a ton of discussion, so much discussion about it, and how it could possibly impact the issues that StarCraft 2 has. How it doesn't get narrowed down to worker starts, and how y'all can go ahead and read it and make your own decisions. Oh, thank you, well pleb. But I really feel like there is absolutely something to this reward versus punish. You're not going to convince me otherwise, and that's okay. If you can go contact one of these guys who brings it up, like Lelouch or this guy, and you can get in a discussion with them, and they're like, you know what, Sturdy Rock, you're right. Then I'll be like, ah, cool. I don't even remember why the fuck this started, by the way. I don't like there being a lot of discussion around Brood War. Okay, but you know, the guys who are talking about this, they actually do know Brood War. Obviously, I'm, you know, as far as ranking of knowledge of Brood War goes, I'm indeed just like my actual rank in Brood War. That's fine. A lot of these guys really heavily enjoyed Brood War. And they still went in and looked at the technology and looked at the data and said, this is different, this is different, this is different. These differences could mean that this could be why we get X, Y, Z, B, D, and E. People who make the current champ hatchet, well, fucking A, yeah. I mean, this is, yeah, then we're in complete agreement, aren't we? And this is why I wanted to make the video, just to get the information out there. Whether or not you agree with the specifics as to why, like, mining matters or reward versus punish is actually a thing. At the end of the day, this is more so the point, which is that it can never be Brood War, even if they change the mining model. Even if they changed it to work exactly like the workers in Brood War, it still wouldn't make it Brood War, which a lot of these guys also point out. They're not saying it'll fix everything immediately, but they're saying that maybe it's a better approach. And that it really has so little, if like nothing, to do with the worker start count. But you should get on Reddit that apparently you don't use. I'm sus on that one. And by all means, come in. Because, yeah, there is no person who plays Brood War. You know what? The person who literally plays Brood War all the time and you would think is coming in being like, guys, like, we got to make sure there's a bunch of differences here, is a person who is pretending to be so excited for these changes. Artosis. Like, a lot of, like, he's not coming in and being like, guys, like, this worker thing, it's a nothing burger. Like, obviously, it's too different. He's coming in and he's like, exactly what needs to be done. So we need someone who is very knowledgeable about Brood War and can come in and be like, look, man, changing to 4 workers definitely won't help. But then, I mean, it's only ever going to go so far. I can tell you a lot about Wings of Liberty and Heart of the Swarm. And I've tried telling all the people who are like, it's going to be just like the best games of those expansions. And I've been like, it wasn't that great, man. And what you're really, the nostalgia's driving you hard. And they're going to be like, nah, 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 nah. The intern does StarCraft 2 stuff. He apparently also does the Warcraft stuff. What's a Skype? Yeah, there's so many things. I mean, this started off a little bit like the discussion on Inside the Game, but we ended it in far more civil ways than Destiny did. It was like, well, what are we really trying to get out here? Oh, people who were comparing it to Brood War are just, really talking out of their ass. Agreed. It's fucking boring is what it is. I needed to invite Sturdy Rock on and just start yelling at him. Making baby sounds whenever they make a point. It's 8 workers now, yeah. $12 is too. Oh my god, have you just Sometimes people join the channel right after we discuss all the reasons why it doesn't matter. And it is really hard to tell if you just coincidentally did that or if you are rage baiting me. It's got to be clearer. You actually did drop. No, this wasn't directed toward you. This was towards Zorb. Okay, they're not trolling either. All right. Oh yeah, there's too many things to account for in StarCraft 2 economy wise. That the worker change doesn't really seem to be the fix that is advertised. All the worker change does is give you that extra 1 to 2 minutes, and if that's all you want is those 2 minutes in the beginning of the game where you get a little more time to think about what you're going to do and to prepare your SCV for going out to build supply depot, then it's for you, 100%. If you believe the propaganda, that is, it's going to increase the amount of build orders, it's going to open up cheesing again, it's going to bring back the best games of Heart of the Swarm, Wings of Liberty, it is 100% not going to do that, and those games weren't that great to begin with.
This is like a discussion piece that I feel very strongly about, and it gets brought up a lot, so I'm trying to talk about it, I'm trying to talk about it in a more complete way so that, like, maybe I can make a YouTube video about it, so when people do bring it up, I can be like, here's the link to the YouTube video talking about this, okay? What was discussed, I just got here. Fuck!
Oh, that's funny. But yeah, you could also watch the video that I actually did make. Yeah. All right, guys, I gotta go and make dinner. So I appreciate the talk. Not much else to look forward to, I guess. My life is meaningless. No. Not doing anything this weekend, but next week, Hyper One invited me to cast a StarCraft 2 versus Brood War, the SE Evo mod in Beast of the Hill, so a free-for-all. So next Saturday, apparently, I'll be casting that in the wee morning in Mountain Time. So that's fun. That's exciting. 8-player FFA, yeah. And I do think Evo is really cool. I haven't. I know they've been putting on tournaments, but I just stopped casting StarCraft in general. And I will be casting the new PTR Monday Night Weekly that I assume they're going to have. If they have it, I'll cast it, and I'll point out all the ways that it's still weirdly similar. Or I'll point out how Zerg is really overpowered. Maybe we'll actually get Zerg signing up for Monday Night Weekly. Yeah. Thanks, guys. I'll see you later. Bye-bye.